Good evening. I'm Kim Melnick, Chair of the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I hereby call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock on this 24th day of September 2024. Thank you to those who have joined us in person and online. At this time, I will ask Madam Clerk to announce the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Present in the school board chamber are Chair Melnick, Vice Chair Franklin, Ms. Anderson, Mr. Callen, Mr. Culpepper, Ms. Kendrick, Ms. Manning, and Ms. Riggs. And presently online, we have Ms. Owens and Ms. Weems.
Do you want?
Okay, Ms. Owens, for the record, can you please state your location and reason for zooming in?
I am in a hotel room in Bahrain, and I am here for military promotion ceremony. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Weems, for the record, can you tell us your location and reason for being via Zoom? Ms. Weems, can you unmute? Well, for the record, Ms. Weems is present online, but we're having audio difficulties. And
Okay.
also for the record, Ms. Brown is now in the chamber also.
Okay, wonderful. And also, Madam Clerk, for the record, Ms. Owens was on Zoom during the workshop. So if you could note that for the record, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to come back on and I forgot. So thank you.
If you would, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Tonight, I would like to welcome the Kellam High School Nightingales and Mr. Carl Capone, Chorus Director. After the Pledge of Allegiance, they will be singing the national anthem. At this time, please stand as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bolts bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Kellam Nightingales. That was beautiful. Thank you.
All right, this evening, the school board has the pleasure of recognizing staff for their achievements. All right, so we have, we're starting off with the United Way, is that correct, Ms.? Okay. The United Way of Southampton Roads, District Champion and Rookie of the Year, Virginia Beach City Public Schools. So this evening, we are going to be recognizing the United Way of Southampton Roads in recognition of Virginia Beach City Public Schools. We ask that Chair Melnick, Dr. Robertson, Dr. Sharon Shoebridge, and Mrs. Laura Beth Matson please come forward. We welcome representatives of the United Way of Southampton Roads to come to the podium to help present these recognitions. Christina Patterson Senior, Director of Corporate and Community Relations, and Trevellis Lewis, Senior Manager of Nonprofit Campaigns and Certifications. All right.
Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. We are thrilled to recognize you, Virginia Beach City Public Schools, as the United Way and Combined Charities Campaign District Champion for the 2023-24 campaign year. Your remarkable commitment and effort in last year's campaign truly set you apart. In addition to raising over $82,000 for our campaign, your campaign also had the lowest year-over-year decrease among all combined charity campaign participants, highlighting your consistent and enduring dedication. We also want to extend our gratitude to the district leadership for their invaluable support and for empowering the school district to achieve this exceptional success. Congratulations on this exemplary achievement and for making a significant impact in our community. We are also excited to recognize Ms. Laura Beth Matson as the Rookie of the Year for her outstanding leadership in the Virginia Beach City Public Schools United Way and Combined Charities campaign. In her first year as an employee campaign leader, Laura Beth not only played a pivotal role in driving this year's campaign success, but also stepped up to represent the district as a member of both the Regional Advisory Committee and the United Way of Southampton Roads campaign cabinet. Her efforts were instrumental in helping raise over $82,000, as well as helping achieve the lowest year-over-year decrease among all combined charity campaign participants. Laura Beth's dedication and exceptional performance have truly made a significant impact. Congratulations, Laura Beth, on a well-deserved award and for your remarkable contributions.
All right, well, congratulations to Ms. Matson and the generous staff members of Virginia Beach City Public Schools. We are so proud of you. Great job. And this concludes the school board recognitions for this evening.
Okay, so now for the adoption of the agenda. Are there any modifications to the agenda as presented? Ms. Manning?
Yes, I'd like to move consent item to action, item 14A5, if we could move that to 15D, please.
14A5 is the LGBTQIA+ History Month, so you would like to move that to action D.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, can we move it to action 15D?
That's
We
what I'm
did.
saying.
D, okay.
Yep. All right. All right, so now I call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented with that modification. Motion made by Ms. Riggs, seconded by Ms. Franklin. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, the voting board is open.
Ms. Owens, how do you vote for the adoption of the agenda with the modification?
I vote aye.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, for the record, Ms. Weems is offline right now, so for the adoption of the agenda, we have 10 ayes, so the motion did pass for it as presented and modified.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Robertson, the superintendent's report. We look forward to that. Thank you.
Very good. Let's wait for him this time. Okay. So good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. Here are a few items of interest for you and our families. On September 4th, Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer Nicole Livas and I participated in the Virginia Beach Council of PTA's annual Fall Leadership Training Institute at Corporate Landing Middle School. The event, also attended by principals, provided training for this year's PTA and PTSA leaders. We thanked everyone for their efforts to support our students and encourage them to spread the word about all the positive things happening in our school system. We value the PTA and PTSAs in our schools as valuable partners. Next up, students and staff lit the first spark of a state-of-the-art teaching space on September the 6th. We celebrated the grand opening of a new welding lab and classroom at the Virginia Beach Technical and Career Education Center. Thanks to the Navy and the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, this $2 million investment doubles enrollment capacity for maritime career prep, bridging the skills gap in our regional shipbuilding industry. We also want to thank our workforce partners, Blue Forge Alliance, and the Regional Maritime Training System powered by the Hampton Roads Workforce Council. I'm excited to share news about our community roundtable discussions aimed at fostering open dialogue and collaboration between VBCPS and business leaders within the region. These roundtables provide a platform where stakeholders can share their thoughts and ideas to tackle community trends and empower leaders to influence positive change, which leads to a more engaged and proactive community. For example, this past spring, we had a discussion at the Virginia International Gateway focusing on the port and education. The roundtable offers an opportunity to strengthen relationships, foster transparency, and build trust among leaders. All members actively participate, and their input is invaluable to strengthen the partnerships between the school system, workforce, and business leaders. Our students had a lot of fun Friday during STEM Lab Learning Day at the NAS Oceana Air Show. Through this amazing partnership with the Navy, thousands of our fifth graders took part in hands-on activities related to science, technology, engineering, and math. Tens of thousands of students have participated in STEM Day since its inception in 2016. Agencies such as NASA, Dominion Energy, and the Virginia Department of Transportation engage students with science experiments, robotics, and more. Staff members and high school students from our academies were also there with fun activities for the younger students. As always, it ended with the spectacular Blue Angels. Thank you to the Navy for this world-class and authentic learning experience. And then finally, the Office of Technical and Career Education commissioned new videos to promote programs that cultivate future-ready students. As you know, Virginia Beach City Public Schools excels at helping students explore a variety of careers. I'll be sharing several of these videos during the coming months, starting with this piece about the Virginia Teachers for Tomorrow program.
Welcome to Virginia Teachers for Tomorrow, where Virginia Beach City Public Schools is shaping the future of education. VTFT offers a hands-on approach to exploring the diverse nature of the teaching profession.
It's a program where we go into schools and we're in internships. I loved teaching the kids, but I also loved getting to know them.
I want to be somebody that the students can come and talk to in and outside of the classroom, someone who's just not teaching them, but making them want to come to school and actually learn and engage.
I've learned a lot about how to communicate with people and how to work in a team to even make lesson plans, because we make lesson plans in groups as well. But also presenting in front of people, it's helped me to get a little more comfortable with that.
Regardless of their chosen career path, our students involved in VTFT emerge better prepared for their academic and professional journeys.
Additionally, I didn't want to become a teacher, and I didn't want to take the class. It was just a schedule filler. But as I moved on to the class, I really enjoyed the class, and that's why I picked it up the second year. Even if you don't want to be a teacher, this program can help you in any situation.
You really need to be able to lead in any aspect in a classroom, if you're playing sports, whatever you're doing in college and whatever you're doing for the rest of your life. It's a good skill to have in whatever you do.
For those who discover working in education is their passion, there's an exciting opportunity to earn the prestigious Future Teacher Award. This award guarantees a position within our school system upon graduation from college.
I've known I wanted to be a teacher for my whole life. So basically I just applied and had a whole interview process where essentially after college, as long as I meet all the requirements, I will have a job, and having that as an opportunity is really cool.
The VB Tuition Scholarship is a scholarship that we put in place last year, and it's for Virginia Beach graduates who want to go into teaching. We're trying to partner with the community and fill a need that the community has. So students who graduate and want to go into teaching come to Virginia Wesleyan. So from day one, they're on the right path and getting the resources that they need on campus to be successful.
The connection that I have with the students, every time I come in there, they're like, oh, hi, Miss Bell, we missed you. And it just really touched my heart and made me notice that I want to be the difference for somebody.
Everyone should do it just because it's literally my favorite class I've ever taken and the most influential group of people that I've ever been around.
And if you really truly invest in it, it will be by far the best experience that you have in high school. I'm involved in a lot of things, but getting involved in BTFT was by far the best decision.
We're excited to extend the opportunity for you to be part of this unique educational experience that is Virginia Teachers for Tomorrow.
If you're interested in VTFT, please go to your counselor today to get involved.
So as you know, board members, we have a number of VTFT teachers who work for us in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, and one was a finalist for Teacher of the Year last year for the city. So we're proud of that program. And this partnership we have with Virginia Wesleyan University is an outgrowth of the Community Roundtable that started last year with Chairwoman Riggs at the time. So thank you, Madam Chair. This concludes my report.
That's awesome.
I'm also pleased that we have a recognition tonight. So I am proud and happy that to announce that Brian Jackson, formerly an Employee Relations Manager with Old Dominion University, is now an Employee Relations Specialist at the Department of Human Resources. And Brian is with us today. And Brian, I see you've brought some guests. Yes.
Oh.
You're going to fit right into employee relations. Yes. That's awesome. So congratulations and thank you very much. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. That's all.
Okay, approval of the meeting minutes for September 10th, 2024. Are there any modifications to the September 10th, 2024 regular school board meeting minutes as presented? All right, seeing that none, the voting board is open. Motion made by Ms. Kendrick, seconded by Ms. Riggs. Any further discussion? Voting board's open.
Ms. Owens, how do you vote on the approval of the meeting minutes from September 10th?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 10 ayes. The motion to pass for the approval of the minutes from September 10th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The school board will now hear public comments on matters relevant to pre-K through 12 public education in Virginia Beach and the business of the school board and the school division from citizens and delegations who signed up with the school board clerk prior to noon today. The purpose for the public comment section of the school board agenda is for the board to offer an orderly forum to receive public comments during the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone attending the meeting tonight, this includes those on the dais and those in the audience and online, to please speak with respect and kindness. The school board also invites the public to submit comments through our group email, which can be found on our website. Madam Clerk, will you please announce the first speaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first speaker is a student speaker, Ava Foster.
Good afternoon. My name is Eva Foster. I'm an 8th grader at Independence Middle School. At my school, we have a rule that backpacks must stay in lockers from arrival until dismissal. This rule was made into response to a child bringing a gun into school, and it creates an unfair hardship for all students. The solution I propose is to allow students to use clear or mesh backpacks throughout the school day. Questions to consider. Does this rule prevent weapons from entering the school? Does it prevent a student from concealing a weapon under their clothing, on their body, or in a lunch bag? Does it really deter students that want to bring a weapon to school from doing so? The answer to these questions is no. Only things like body checks, metal detectors, or other preventative measures can fully prevent weapons from entering the schools. So what does this rule do? This rule causes a hardship to students. Imagine how difficult it is to carry Chromebook, charger, binder, lunchbox, and pencil pouch, and water bottle, all in your hands throughout the day. When halls are crowded, students bump into each other and drop things, this causing a traffic jams and stress. Additionally, there are extra hardships and fatigue on students with medical and physical conditions. As someone with scoliosis, my back hurts at the end of the day after carrying everything around. This rule also disproportionately affects menstruating females. To make matters worse, IMS banned purses this year. 1 week every month, every girl at IMS will have to manage her period without being able to discreetly carry feminine hygiene products. It forces girls in embarrassing situations, having to ask teachers in front of the whole class, sometimes a male teacher, for a feminine product, or asking to go to the nurse. This effectively announces her period to the whole class. This is not good for the health of IMS students. In case you didn't know, statistics show that 95% of school shooters are male. So why are we punishing females for predominantly male behavior? I would also like to know if the backpack rule and purse ban is applied equally across schools among Virginia Beach City Public School System. If not, that is an unequal application of the school rule. The problem is that the backpack rule is disproportionately affects female students and students with medical issues. It does little to prevent weapons from entering the school. While guns in schools are a very real problem, prohibiting backpacks does little to prevent them from entering the school. My solution of clear mesh backpacks addresses the concerns and reasons for the school. Most importantly, this solution will help reduce hardships on those with physical and medical conditions, along with every other student in the school. Thank you for your consideration today.
We just do not applaud at all during speakers, so this works. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Matthew Cody Connor, then Melinda Rogers, then Erica Guess.
Good evening. Do you know what the number one cause of death for children between the ages of 1 and 17 in our country is? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not books. It's not pronouns. It's not LGBTQI history. It's guns, 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 3 years running. There's a resolution on the agenda for information for safe gun storage. It's actually a real opportunity for the board to show that they actually do care about our kids and their lives. It's something that probably should have been moved to action so that it could be passed. But that's not what you did. I know you think it's funny, Mr. Culpepper, but it's not to the community that it affects. What you did was instead to decide to attack the LGBTQ community. And you know what? At this point, I'm not even going to ask you not to. No, go ahead and show everybody who you are. Show all the voters going to the polls exactly who you are. Show them not only have test scores not gone up, not only are our schools rife with bullying and racism, but at every opportunity you've had a chance to actually help and solve a real problem, you've decided instead to donate all of your energy, all of your time, what little time that you can spare for some of you, to creating solutions for problems that don't exist, that result in discrimination and harm against our most vulnerable communities. So just go ahead and Show us who you are, because the answer is coming.
Our next speaker is Melinda Rogers, then Erica Guess, then Susan Losberg.
Good evening. I'm here today as a gun sense candidate with Moms Demand Action to strongly encourage this board to approve the resolution for safe gun storage. As you are aware, gun violence is the leading cause of death among children under the age of 17 in the United States. Additionally, 4.6 million children live in homes with firearms, some of which are securely stored and others which are not. Although this body is not responsible for passing laws that address this ongoing issue, you can act by passing the firearms storage resolution. This resolution will educate gun owners about secure firearm storage. Easy access to firearms leads to unintentional shootings, and we know our school division can and must do more to protect our students from incidents within our schools. Passing this resolution is a critical step in safeguarding our children from tragedies like the recent incident that happened in Georgia. However, gun safety must be approached with a comprehensive strategy. Many students who commit violent acts are those who have been bullied in our schools. This body has discussed the importance of protecting the mental health of our students, yet at the same time, some are working to prevent children in the LGBTQ plus community from having a month celebrating people in their community. This includes allowing students to celebrate people like Alan Turing, the mathematical genius who cracked the Enigma code during World War II, who also happened to be gay and was arrested for it in 1952. Harvey Milk, who was the first openly gay man elected to public office. Frida Kahlo, who not only is a renowned painter, but a person who would dress in what was at the time considered men's clothing, making them a trailblazer for gender nonconformity. And Josephine Baker, who was the first African-American woman to star in a motion picture, to perform with an integrated cast at the American Concert Hall, and one of the first African-American entertainers who achieved acclaim in both movies and on stage. She also happened to be in relationships with both men and women. It's astonishing to me that this board would oppose and to educate and celebrating men and women in history, but would rather pretend that these trailblazers were non-existent due to their social status. Does this board not recognize the harm caused by such actions? By ignoring and excluding LGBTQ plus education, you are excluding LGBTQ plus children within our own schools. We send a message to other students that this exclusion is acceptable, while also ensuring we're recognizing a bullying prevention month. It seems counterintuitive. Why would anyone on this board consider it appropriate to exclude any child in this community? This board is mandated to educating all children in this community equally, and it's a responsibility I take seriously. I urge you to pass the firearms storage resolution, and I also implore you to consider the broader implications of your votes against our LGBTQ youth. Denying children a safe social environment based on personal beliefs serves to isolate children further, increasing their vulnerability to bullying and violence. Your leadership tonight has the potential to make Virginia Beach a safer, more inclusive place for children.
And that is time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Erica Guess, then Susan Losberg, then Pat Gadzinski.
Good evening. My name is Erica Guess, and I'm part of the leadership team for the local group of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We are the group here in red t-shirts. We're here in support of Resolution 12E, Secure Gun Storage. My colleagues will tell you about the importance of gun storage in community safety and suicide prevention, but there are two things that I wanted to share specifically with you all today. First, I am so happy to see this resolution presented on the agenda, and I hope it's a catalyst to starting even more conversations about secure gun storage. I hope this messaging will eventually be included in school newsletters, parent bulletins, guidance offices, and PTA events. It's extremely important. Second, I want to tell you about an old friend of mine named Stephen. We met in elementary school. He was tall and lanky, and he had dark curly hair and light blue eyes. And he was very, very, very handsome. And I had a really big crush on him. He wore braces, and we knew each other in 5th and 6th grade. Then in high school, he shot himself in the head and died. I don't know what kind of gun it was, and I don't know whose gun it was. But I know that he should not have had access to it. A conversation about locking up guns could have saved his life. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Susan Losberg, then Pat Kaczynski, then Melissa Luxon.
Good evening. I've been up here many times to talk about this issue, so I want to thank you for this resolution. This is not about taking anyone's guns away or infringing on anyone's right to own firearms. I grew up in a house with firearms. This is about promoting responsible gun ownership to reduce gun deaths, especially among our children and teens. Firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens 17 and under. Be Smart for Kids is a campaign to take action to promote responsible gun ownership and reduce gun violence, gun deaths. In the last few years, firearm-related deaths have risen among children and teens, increasing by 46% from 2019 to 2022. Also, suicides by firearm have increased over the past decade. Most of these deaths, as well as many firearm-related injuries, can be prevented through secure firearm storage. We're asking you, the Virginia Beach School Division, to partner with our community to increase awareness among students, families, and staff about the importance of secure gun storage. You can do this by providing resources and secure storage on your website and emails to families, like so many other school districts are doing across the country, and organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics. Providing our students and staff in Virginia Beach Public Schools with a safe educational environment should be our top priority. Students cannot learn if they do not feel safe. Secure storage means keeping guns unloaded, locked, and stored separately from ammunition. Parents often think that kids don't know where their firearms are kept or trust that their kids won't touch their firearms because they've been told not to. Well, research shows that that just isn't true. 4.6 million children in America live in homes with guns that are both loaded and unlocked. 3 out of 4 school shooters used a firearm they took from the parent or a close relative in the home. And any law enforcement officer would tell you that another place that kids are getting these guns is stealing them out of cars because people aren't locking their guns up. After yet another senseless death of a child in Virginia Beach, Chief Newdigate said, "Once again, I will make a plea to our community asking them to take the necessary steps to keep their firearms out of the hands of those who should not have access." We are seeing a trend across the United States. Courts are holding parents and school systems accountable for the tragic and preventable deaths and injuries to our children and school staff due to failures to keep firearms out of the hands of children and people who should not have access to them. This is personal for me. Secure gun storage saved the life of my nephew. 3 years later, he's thriving. You have the power to join law enforcement, pediatricians, the courts, community groups, and others to help prevent senseless shootings that kill our children and cause community trauma. Please support our resolution to notify families about the importance of secure storage. And I'm also going to add today, just saw an email to parents that something happened in Ocean Lakes High School. This is an opportunity to reach out to parents and say, please secure your firearms. And thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Pat Kaczynski, and then Melissa Luxon.
Good evening, Superintendent Robinson, Chairwoman Melnick, and members of the school board. Thank you for your hard work and service to our community. My name is Pat Kaczynski, and I've spoken before this board in the past several times in support of secure gun storage messaging that will save lives. I am grateful for all the Virginia Beach educators who provided my 3 now grown children with an excellent education. I believe we have the best here in Virginia Beach, and those include my neighbor, a colleague, and my beloved daughter-in-law. Their safety and the possibility of them being protectors for our children in schools from gunfire is one reason for being here tonight. I want everyone in our school buildings to be safe because we, the adults, are responsible and are taking steps to protect them. I hope that we can all agree that a common sense action to help end the growing epidemic of gun violence in our schools is simple. Lock up your guns. We who have guns in our homes and cars should be responsible for keeping them locked, unloaded, and separate from ammunition, and in my home, they are in a gun safe. This is the one simple thing we can do to help prevent access to firearms by those who mean to do harm to themselves or others. Not doing so has led to many tragic incidents here in Hampton Roads. Across our country, there were at least 144 incidents of gunfire on school grounds in the 2023-2024 school year. That is a 31% increase from the prior school year. The number one killer of children and teens is gun violence. According to Chief Newdigate, speaking before City Council in February here in Virginia Beach, there were 90 shooting victims. He also shared that 15 million new guns were purchased last year. He did not know how many of those were sold here in Virginia. Can we be part of the solution to ensure that these guns are not accessible to our children? Yes, we can. By passing the resolution being presented tonight, Virginia Beach City Public Schools will be helping to educate the public on the crucial role of reducing injuries and deaths by promoting secure gun storage and safety so that children can live in a safe community and attend school in a safe environment. Since 2015, our Be Smart for Kids campaign has been shared to prevent 350 children a year from unintentionally shooting themselves or someone else when they find unloaded guns. More than 700 children die by gun suicide each year. Our Be Smart for Kids campaign is available right now to be shared with the entire Virginia Beach Public Schools community and is a reminder to the grown-ups that this one action we take to secure our guns can prevent harm and will save lives. I urge you to share this with our school families and to pass this resolution. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Melissa Luxon.
Good evening. I didn't have time to prepare anything this evening because I kind of found out at the last minute that the Bigot Brigade was going to pull off this LGBTQ plus History Month from the agenda. And so I'm just really disgusted that I have to come up here on another Tuesday night and tell half of the people that sit on that dais that you're a bunch of bigots and you're intentionally discriminating against students that you are supposed to represent. And you're absolutely disgusting. Your face, Vicki Manning, literally makes me sick. And while we're being transparent about things, Dr. Robertson, I noticed that you did your superintendent's report. And it's really great. I love everything that I saw in there. It was really wonderful. But in February, a book content committee was passed. Oh, I would like to note that Jennifer Franklin may be a book banner, but she certainly is not a bigot. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. So back to Dr. Robertson. Dr. Robertson, I do understand you were supposed to bring the book process back to the school board from the book content committee and let the school board, who you work for, know what's going on with the book content committee and what processes came from that. And I have been told by multiple members of the board that they have not been informed by you and that you don't give them any information on that, which has now led to a few of us in the community doing our own investigation. And so if you're not going to give the processes to the public, which is your job, so that we know what you're doing in these schools, and the school board members don't have the courage to force you to give it to them, I got it. And I'm going to expose it. And we're going to go to the media with it. And you had the opportunity to distribute the information and present it and control what you're trying to control, and you failed because you don't want the public to know that there are thousands of books in the school system that are off the shelves right now. Thousands. And that's just one little tidbit I've gotten. So you had the opportunity to control the information. I'm so sorry you couldn't do it. But while you guys are playing all these political games here, okay, students are suffering. And now your teacher is going to be suffering because there's, from what I heard, a $24 million deficit for the healthcare coverage for all of the people in public schools and BBCPS for their health insurance, because that's apparently not been a priority for the school board because there's been so much effort into the culture war stuff. I would really like for the school board to actually tell the employees that they're going to have to pay an exorbitant amount of money come January for the health insurance. Could you do that? That'd be great. Thanks.
We're going to move on to our online speaker, Stephen Strauss. Please unmute. Mr. Strauss, please unmute. Mr. Strauss, can you start speaking? We'll try one more time, Mr. Strauss. Mr. Strauss, please unmute.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Please continue.
Okay, sorry about that. Hi, Stephen Strauss. Sorry. Dear Virginia School Board, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Stephen Strauss. I'm a descendant of Captain Adam Thorogood and Sarah Offley. They are both my 10 times great grandparents. I come before you today, virtually, requesting and demanding that you remove my ancestor's name Thorogood from Thorogood Elementary School due to its association with enslavement. He was an enslaver in the late 1630s. He owned more than one person of color, including an African woman named Mary. Ergo, his name should not be associated with elementary education or the children receiving the education. So as his 10 times great grandson, I humbly request, as crazy as this sounds, to remove an enslaver's name from an elementary school. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, that was our last speaker for this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Tonight on the information portion of the agenda, we begin with the interim financial statements, the June unaudited, July and August 2024, and we welcome Daniel Hopkins, Director of Business Services. Welcome, sir.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Chairwoman Melnick, Vice Chairwoman Franklin, school board members, Dr. Robertson. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, the overall final revenue trend was favorable with an actual over budget of approximately $9.7 million. The Commonwealth of Virginia revenue source was favorable with an actual over budget of approximately $3.3 million, mainly due to the state basic aid funding. The state sales tax revenue source was unfavorable with an actual under budget of approximately $4.9 million. The federal government revenue source was favorable with an actual over budget of approximately $8.7 million, mainly due to the federal impact aid receipts. Other revenue sources were favorable with an actual over budget of approximately $2.6 million, mainly due to the Stop Arm Enforcement Funds, sale of capital assets, and CSEP funds. The next graph illustrates total revenues by major source in fiscal year 2024. The City of Virginia Beach contributed 51.5%, Commonwealth of Virginia 36.6%, state sales tax 9.1%, federal government 2.2%, and other sources 0.6%. The final expenditure trend for fiscal year 2024 was favorable in all categories. The overall remaining unspent unencumbered balance was $22.3 million. The next graph illustrates the total expenditures incurred in fiscal year 2024 by category. The instructional category comprised of 69.3%, operations and maintenance 11.9%, pupil transportation 5.6%, technology 4.3%, administration, attendance, and health 4.3%, and debt service was 4.6%. As presented on B1 of your documents, you will find a summary of the reversion back to the city's general fund with the revenue surplus of $9.7 million and the remaining unspent unencumbered balance of $22.3 million and reversion of school athletics of $176,000, Green Run Collegiate $45,000, and all the other adjustments and prepaids Our reversion back to the city is $31.7 million. The revenues that comprise the city and school board revenue sharing formula on a preliminary basis came in under budget. Our share of the deficit is approximately $1.2 million. The budget development staff is currently working on potential future uses of these funds, and they'll be presented and discussed at the school board meeting on October 8th. The revenue sharing formula and these figures presented are unaudited and are subject to change. Now, the July and August interim financial statements are also included in your board documents this evening. They are presented as required by Virginia State Code. However, these are abbreviated statements. There are no salaries and benefits for 10-month employees, and the abbreviated statements are not as meaningful and comparable as financial statements presented for September. This concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, I don't see any. Thank you. Thanks,
thank
Mr.
you.
Hopkins. All right, item B is the Policy Review Committee's recommendations, and we welcome Mrs. Linetti, our school board attorney.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, school board members, and Dr. Robertson. I'm Cami Linetti, the school board attorney, and on behalf of the Policy Review Committee, I'll be presenting recommendations from the September 12, 2024 PRC meeting. There are only 6 that we're covering this evening. The first up is Policy 561. This is First Aid and Emergency Care. There was statutory language added to this particular policy that had been updated again as we've been reviewing the policy. Sometimes they get updated over the years. And the statutory language that we have added appears primarily in Section E. We've added language that's in the statute. It's not that we didn't have these procedures, we simply didn't have them in the policy, so I've gone ahead and added them as Section E. These are the additional procedures that you see here. Are there any questions on Policy 561? Hearing no questions on Policy 561, I'll move on to Policy 630. This is in our instruction area, and I'm looking at the top, it says personnel, and I actually probably should say instruction up there. Family life, education. On there, again, there were statutory requirements that are primarily going to show up. You'll see a little bit in Section A and D, but it's primarily in Section E and F that we've gone required language that's in the statute. Again, we have the procedures in place. We simply didn't have this in the policy, so we've gone ahead, updated Section E, and made some updates to Section F on the opt-out procedures. So are there any questions on Policy 630?
Quick question.
Mr. Culpepper.
In A, it says review every 7 years. Why 7? Where'd that come from?
That's statutory.
statute.
That's typical. You'll see that with textbooks we use, but it tended to be what the VDOE was the language they use for instruction textbooks. That's a typical time period, but that's statutory.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on 630? Hearing no questions on 630, we'll move on to Policy 647. This is interscholastic competition. Just a minor scrivener change. We're pulling out the editor's notes that we've done in prior policies. Are there any questions on 647? Hearing no questions on 647, we'll move on to 655, resources for rental home instruction assistance. Simply reformatting changes more consistent with how we do our outlining forms and policies. Other than that, there are no recommended changes. Any questions on 655? Hearing no questions on 655, I'm going to move on to 671. Now, please note, if you have not updated, we did update the policy. So if that came in yesterday, we recognize we put up the wrong version of it. If you remember from our last meeting, we had it in regulation form. We took it back to policy. We took the regulation and we're now adopting it in policy. I will say we made a few changes from what the regulation was. So that's why this will be brought in. Most of the stuff has not changed significantly. We reordered a lot of this information on there. You'll see the change is now class rank, weighted bonus, credit, dual enrollment. First section is class rank, weighted bonus, credit. Clarify the different subsections. We broke them out into subsections, and particularly we broke out to the Governor's School for the Arts, I believe shows up as Section D, future grades and class rankings, so we reordered it a little bit, things that we had looked at. We've now added Section B as dual enrollment. Dual enrollment actually appeared in another regulation. We took some of the language out of there, put it over here in Section B, so that portion of dual enrollment appears over here, and PRC decided this is a more coherent policy. if adopted, once this policy is adopted, we will go back and take out the regulation that we had that matched this. We will update the dual enrollment, which I think is 689.1 of regulation, so we're not duplicating the language. A little complicated. Did I get that right, Ms. Brown? The explanation of it, that was a lot of information for one policy.
Yeah, I had a question, yeah.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is it going to say Governor School for the Arts?
Yes, it says Governor's.
Yes, in section D, in A, D, it appears in this. We broke it out as its own section to make it clear on there. And then you'll see a little bit more further explanation down here in dual enrollment also appears in the same section. So if you were looking for grades and weighted credit, you should be able to find it all in one policy now.
Okay, thank you.
And so colleagues, those of you that may have looked at the agenda previously, when I looked at the policies that were attached, it was not quite what we had voted on and moved from the policy committee. It had reverted back to the previous policy that was in
Mistake
there.
on my part,
Yeah.
I didn't catch what my paralegal put in, I should have checked it. It should have been the red line version that you see now in
Right,
here.
and so, anyway, this isn't changing though, the practices that we agreed on at all, right, Ms. Lemonade?
Correct. What you essentially took the regulation, the form that you discussed at the last meeting. At PRC, the decision was to add the section B dual enrollment, which was a separate regulation. Again, I think it was 689.1. We slipped that portion over here because it seemed to make more sense. If you were looking to see where you got weighted credit, you would probably, as a parent or a student, be looking at one policy. So we've combined them together. We will have to, once approved, pull out the regulation so we're not duplicating this information.
Okay, thank you for the attention to that. Thanks.
If I could just have a moment to talk about this. I am really excited that our division's moving forward with this. For many of the people in my district had come to me and said that they felt like they were being manipulated into choosing courses that really had the same outcome, AP dual enrollment. And I think that we've done really good work as a board on this and with staff. And so I'm very happy about this and the communication to families where they can easily take a look and see where they can get those weighted bonuses. I think that this is much needed in the community and, a lot of times, people just hear about the things that we disagree on. I feel like this is really great work that we did, so thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions on I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Manning.
Go ahead. It's Miss Manning and then Miss Anderson.
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to thank Ms. Brown for her leadership on this and for, we've been talking about this for years and for finally leading and getting this done. And also want to recognize some staff members. Mr. Jameson worked really, really hard on this, and I know there are others that I'm
Mr. Quinn
forgetting.
did a lot of work.
Mr.
They
Quinn
had
did
to do
a lot of work on
investigating
it,
work.
and so please, I know they're not here. Please pass along our
Yes, he is.
thank yous. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you over there behind Mr. Delaney, but thank you all so much. You did great work on this. It was very complicated, and you whittled it down to language we can all understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Anderson.
So I want to thank the current PRC members. We started working on this when I was still a member of this committee, and I felt like, we really pushed for this to happen. So I'm pleased to see that it's actually come to fruition at this time. But I have a request, and I've talked to Mr. Dent about this. So in the future, when we have policy on information and/or action, I would like to see it uploaded to this machine. So I'd like to
That was
request
a
that that be
decision
done.
that a prior chair made not to put them on. I'm not sure why. It was Mr. Edwards made that decision many years ago not to put it up on the form. So that's the only reason we
So we
did it that
didn't
way.
have these, we've only had these for couple months now, but this new technology that we have, it would be very easy to upload onto right here, so we have it right here in front of us.
Yeah, but then I
So-
can't see anything. That's what our computers are for. I can't, if this screen is taken away, then I
Well,
don't have.
he said that, it would be small, but it could be done, they could upload it, so.
Okay.
Or it could be put up there. I mean,
It was simply a choice that was made by our prior chair not to put all the policies up. It's certainly, no, it's before your time, Ms. Drake. And so that could be something we do. We just simply follow. That was a decision made many, many years ago, but certainly there's no reason why it couldn't be
Yeah,
put up on the
okay,
board.
we can add that. Okay. And the last one?
Last one is the Internal Audit Charter, and just for clarification, because folks in the public may not be familiar with it, concept, you do have the school board after 1997, after the grand jury indictment. One of the things you did was bring in an internal auditor to make sure that that internal auditor was functioning in an independent capacity. You created the Internal Audit Charter, which structures how the internal auditor is monitored, the work they're done, and how that committee is there. That's just a decision that was made in the 90s. So we have an Internal Audit Charter. You can find it in our policies in 397. You can go to them. It will link you to this. It's in our policies. But there's a policy on the internal audit, but then there's a charter, which again has been involved for about 30-some years now, directs how you run your charter. How you run your internal audit department now, and how the internal auditor does her work, and how the school board committee responsible. For the public's knowledge, you have a standing committee that is made up of like 3 to 4 school board members and a civilian member. And they would meet quarterly now to monitor what the internal auditor does. One of the things on the first page, it's actually page 2 of the internal audit charter, it talks about the committee. A question came up earlier this year, this fiscal year, having to do with what constitutes having a quorum for a audit committee member. So this was brought to the PRC to look at. The recommendation we'll see on page 2 of the charter, under audit committee section, under the second paragraph, the sentence would now, recommended from PRC would now read, when an appointed audit committee member is not able to attend an audit committee meeting, comma, the school board chair or school board designee may substitute for that person, exercise voting privileges, and this will be the added language, and will count towards a quorum. At the end of the sentence. So the clarification was the substitute would be able to function the same matter of voting member was. PRC discussed this and decided that adding this language would clarify this in the future. It is a somewhat unique situation, the fact that the chair is automatically designated to substitute on this particular committee. The purpose of that is so that you do have a committee established and willing to work. It functions slightly differently than you have on your other standing committees. So again, the added language would be, and the designee may substitute for that person and exercise voting privileges with the added language, and will count toward a quorum. And the PRC believed after discussing this would be the most efficient language to clarify what the procedure would be, and that is the recommendation coming to you. Normally, we might have taken this to the audit committee, but as audit committee meets quarterly, it had met earlier this month, and we didn't think we wanted to wait any longer for this. We brought it directly to the school board, which is where it would end up eventually having to go. Are there any questions on the recommendation to the internal audit committee charter?
What's the difference?
I think it was clarifying, there was a question as to what role the chair or designee plays. Are they just substituting, or do they count as the appointed school board member on the audit committee?
No, the appointed school board, there is no.
It does. Let me start this in.
Okay.
The beginning of the paragraph reads, the audit committee will consist of 3 to 4 members appointed by the school board. 2 or 3 members will be school board members. The school board will appoint 1 or more citizens of the city of Virginia Beach to serve as a 3rd or 4th member. The school board chair will act as ex officio member of the audit committee, will serve as a voting member in the event of the votes. When an appointed school board member is not able to attend an audit committee meeting, the school board chair or school board designee will substitute for that person, exercise voting privileges, and with the added language, and will count towards a quorum.
So that's the old language?
No, will count towards a quorum is recommended language.
I'm still confused as to what the difference was, like what happened in the past. I was on the audit committee for a couple of years. We have 3 school board members and a citizen.
I believe and now someone else will speak to this, but my understanding of the concern was, what is the role of the school board chair or a designee substituting for somebody else? Do they count as the appointed member, or to establish a quorum, or are they simply a substitute and don't count?
What does that mean? Are they the appointed member? What does that mean? This chair steps in. The chair cannot serve on the audit committee. We know that. So the chair's duty is to step in when somebody is absent, and that's what happened. and the chair stepped in and exercised the right to vote to conduct a meeting. So those meetings are quarterly and they take a long time to prepare. And so when somebody at the last minute cannot be there and you don't have a quorum, that's the purpose of the chair. I don't understand what the problem was. So maybe Ms. Brown is.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we could probably debate about what occurred last time all night, but I don't think that's what this change is about. There was some question as to whether or not, without us voting to appoint in our bylaws, when we do that vote for committee assignments every year, whether or not the school board chair is appointed or a substitute. And because of the way the language is written, it says appointed members. And so all we're doing is clarifying that practice so that there is no dispute about it in the future.
I thought the appointed member referred to the citizen.
No, as with any committee, standing committee, you're appointing all the members to that committee. So there are citizen appointees on this particular committee, but you appointed everyone else, because when you vote to appoint standing committees, that's what you've done. You've appointed those members.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna belabor this. I still don't understand, but whatever.
Can I ask as the audit chair? So basically, all we're doing at this point is we're just clarifying the fact that the school board chair effectively can stand in as the substitute to create a quorum and vote. So we're just clarifying.
That is correct. Another designee.
Okay.
It can either be, the school board chair is an ex officio, but the school board chair or another designee could fill in for a
So that
school
was
board
just
member.
understood in the
Okay,
past.
why would you need another designee if the school board chair could not?
Two people weren't available, and you needed to have that meeting, so you could have your chair could be appointed, and then maybe another audit.
Not
committee-
somebody appointed in lieu of the chair filling in.
No,
that's what that
this just
sounded like.
means who's ever substituting, if you're a substitute for an appointed member, then you are acting in the same role as the appointed members. So you have the same responsibilities and duties as the appointed member. I think that was what the clarification was trying to get to.
Okay. I guess, it's still, there's a lot of ambiguity there for me. It was a very simple thing. The charter is important, the charter's national. We are not the owners of a charter singly. It is across the nation, and so I'm still confused why the chair just doesn't fill in.
It was a recommendation that the PRC considered, I can tell you. I believed it, I understood it, that the person substituting was filling in the duties of an appointed member. There were enough PRC members that felt clarification with CIS people.
That's what I'm asking. Who's the substitute?
It's most likely going to be the chair because the chair is acting as ex officio, but you do have the ability to also have another school board member substitute for an audit committee member who cannot be available. So it could either be the chair or it could be another school board member.
So if you have one audit committee member who's available for a meeting and you need two substitutes, one is the chair, who should be kept abreast of everything that's been happening, or you have a random person who has to come in and fill who has not been part of the conversation for the rest of the time, and that's my question. So that's that's just confusing to me.
Well, the designee has already been in the charter. That's not a new addition. Another school board member has always been an option. The chair is most likely because the chair is ex officio, but you can also have another school board member substitute for.
I would like to think that our school board auditor, if two members of the audit committee were not able to be present, then she would cancel that meeting. Because it would be moot. There'd be no reason to have an audit committee meeting if the people who are serving on that committee cannot be there. I served on that committee for years and nobody ever missed, ever. We never had a substitute. The chair never filled in for anybody. They're quarterly meetings we knew in advance. Now, if there were an emergency, the chair can step in. Otherwise, I would think that the meeting would be canceled. So I don't like that language. I typically don't push back on policy review, but this just seems a little odd or fishy. I'm sorry, it just does. It doesn't sound right. the chair should be the one that's filling in, and I'm requesting that this be taken back to policy review and talked about again, and that piece being taken out. If you don't have at least two of your members present, that audit committee is too important, and that, to have this kind of add-on means you don't understand the policy committee. You don't. The policy committee is legit, and a lot of work goes into these presentations. Performance audit, and they last at least 2 hours. It's important work. Miss Manning.
Okay, so just to clarify, we did not add the language about the designee. That's been in there. We didn't touch that. The only thing we added was to clarify that the chair counted toward a quorum. And because there were some disagreement about that, and we wanted to clarify it. That is the only change. If you look at your agenda packet, that's the only change. So if you can clarify what you want the policy committee to change, if the board does not want that designee language in there, we could certainly consider taking it out. But that was not a change that we made. That was already there. Additionally, one question that we discussed in policy review is understanding what this internal audit charter is. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Cammie. But Cammie clarified this was an audit charter created by this board. This is not a national or any type of thing outside of our division. This is an audit charter that we can change, just like we can change a bylaw or a policy. So this is one of our governing documents that we can change just like we can change anything else. Is that correct?
It was modeled on similar charters that other school divisions have, and there are national organizations that have this. But this is not a national one that you joined. You modeled it after other ones.
Correct. And we are not governed by anyone else over us on this.
No,
Thank you.
it was never about governing. It was about having a charter because of what happened, the fiscal debacle in 1997, that we have a charter that outlines exactly what is supposed to happen with the audit committee. And so I'm asking this to be taken back to policy review and strike that other language other than the chair. Whoever the chair is, doesn't matter.
So, can I finish what I was gonna say? Okay. And then also, one other thing we discussed in our meeting was the internal audit charter also specifically says that the audit committee has to update the board on its findings and things that are happening, especially fraud. And that has not been happening, so that was one thing that we stressed in our policy review committee, that we need to make sure that that's getting done. Thank you.
So, for the record, for the public record, for that comment, anytime there was fraud that needed to be discussed with the board, we did go into closed session, and we have talked about those things before. We have. That will never be discussed from this dais, and we have always gone into closed session. Ms. Brown.
Thank you. So our bylaw 128 and policy 396 that goes over this does count that those are appointed members. My actual preference for this is that the school board chair does not count for a quorum. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, this can go back to the policy committee, but I do believe that it needs to be clarified because I do not believe that last meeting that occurred should have occurred the way that it did. And I think that this produces some clarity. It actually helps with the audit committee's flow. And you know, if pressed, then I would say that if I was to bring this to a vote, that the chair would not count towards the quorum. So I just want to throw that out there. We're most certainly welcome to bring it back, but I think those 2 words are really not changing, or 3 words, what went on, that I did not believe was done appropriately.
Does the chair count for a quorum in any other committee?
You are not designated as ex officio like you are in this charter. So if the chair was appointed to a committee and serving on that committee, you would count towards quorum.
In all committees, ex officio.
It really goes to who's substituting for a committee. Anytime you're substituting, so like, let's say student discipline, which is common for you all, sometimes somebody has to substitute in. If you're filling in, you are performing the duties, you constitute a quorum.
Okay, well, then let me give you a scenario. Mrs. Riggs will not be present for the legislative committee meeting, and I've been asked to fill in. Do I have voting privilege if something comes up?
You
As ex
would.
officio?
Correct, you
Okay,
would,
thank you.
count as a quorum.
Thank you.
Is the consensus to send the internal audit charter back? I will say, internal audit committee is not due to meet, I think it's November is our next, I don't remember the exact date, so it's not gonna affect the next meeting if we take it back.
Ms. Riggs?
Okay, so just let me make this clear. You just asked about the legislative committee. Is that all standing committees? Whoever is standing in, and there has to be a vote, is that person given that
If you are the
privilege or
designated,
power to be the person that votes?
if you
if
are the
there's something?
designated substitute, sometimes you all show up as extra people at a meeting.
Right.
If you are the designated substitute, then you are acting in the power of the person you're substituting for.
And so you vote. And so, more often than not, the substitute person becomes our chair, the ex officio, to people that aren't there, oftentimes. Now, the discipline, we've, shared that. But more often than not, the chair takes that position. So I just wanted to make sure it goes for all committees.
This is somewhat unique in the fact that the internal audit specifically designates the chair as an ex officio. You don't really have that on your other committees. in that
Well,
sense.
again, I have to reiterate what Ms. Chair Melnick said, that if you have two people, for instance, that aren't there, I do not think that, I think that audit committee should be canceled. That should not go on, because you just don't need a random person there that doesn't know what's going on, because it takes a lot of information. And to just walk in and not know, it should be canceled. And so I think that if you're gonna take something back and put it in the charter or put it in the PRC, whatever, that's something that you need to be looking at as well.
All right, so the recommendation is to take the internal audit charter back and consider what you brought up. As I said, I think we have time till the next internal
I have a
audit meeting.
question about the way it's written now. May I speak?
Of course.
The way it's written now, my understanding is that if someone, just one of the audit committee people is absent, then the chair, our chair of the school board, will substitute and become a voting member. And there's no question about it. Is that correct?
Not automatically. You could make that decision. You could have somebody else, another school board member substitute, and the school board chair could remain as ex officio. I think the
Okay.
habit is that the
So
chair's there
according to our
anyway.
bylaws, the chair then would appoint someone to take the place of the person who normally would be on the audit committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I understand that. I mean, I thought that was standing, that's the way it was written to begin with. But this just clarifies that if the chair does not appoint someone else to take the place of someone who is on the audit committee, the chair then can become a voting member of the audit committee for that meeting.
I'll tell you where, and this is where it gets confusing, if you read the rest of it. The chair functions ex officio, has the ability to be a tiebreaker as long as she's functioning as, he is functioning as the ex officio member. Because
Okay.
the way it's written, you can have an even number of members there. You could run into a four-person situation. In functioning as the ex officio, the chair can tiebreak. If the chair is substituting for an appointed member, the chair cannot be the tiebreaker. So that might be a reason why the chair would want to remain ex officio and have another school board member fill in, because she might want to serve as a tiebreaker on something. So
Okay.
that is another unique piece in this particular charter.
So the only thing I believe it's been looked at and said, if there are two members of the audit committee absent, so it's been brought up, then at that point in time, I'm getting waving going on.
No, that's for me, because Jessica's in the queue.
Okay, I'm sorry. If there are two members absent, then at that point, and I do agree at that point, when there's two members out of out of the 4 members, then maybe they should just cancel for the day, but no, there's 3 board members and a citizen, so there's 4 members of the committee. So if 2 of those members are absent, then we need to reschedule that meeting. So, and I agree with that. But I do agree also that the chair should automatically be a part of the committee if it's just 1 member, an accident happens or whatever, and give up the ex officio area of it and just become a voting member of the audit committee. I agree with that part of it. I thought that that's the way it was to begin with, but if it's just to clarify for the PRC, then I'm okay with that. But maybe it does need to be worked on a little bit more to clarify these things.
Okay, Ms. Owens?
Thank you. I don't want to belabor the point that Ms. Anderson was just giving, but the 3 words that were added really were a fairly simplistic clarification. It sounds like the conversation that is being had now has more to do with the charter, the way it was written prior to PRC looking at it. And certainly I don't mind the PRC going back and looking at the charter for other clarifications. But I think that I thought that the brief clarification phrase here met the need that was being assigned or brought to the issue. So I will just throw that out there, that if the PRC is going to do a deeper dive and look at other parts of the charter, it may be a more in-depth task that we'd want to, have feedback loops with the board as a whole, since it's not a document that originated at PRC per se. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, perhaps for the Policy Review Committee, it was clear, but the way it was presented this evening, it was not clear. So whatever you guys do, just the next time, just make sure that it just comes across where people understand, so.
All right, therefore, we will take internal audit charter back to PRC. The rest of the policies will then go on for consent for the next meeting, correct? If there are no further questions, that would be the end of the PRC recommendations.
Okay. Moving on to letter C, Standards of Learning Pass Rates and Accountability Designations based on 2023-24 performance, and we welcome Tracy Legata, Director of Student Assessment.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, Chair and Vice Chair Dr. Robertson as well, and the school board. This evening, I will present the 23-24 SOL pass rate data for Virginia Beach City Public Schools, state pass rates, and the pass rates for other Virginia divisions for comparison purposes. After reviewing pass rate data, I will review state accreditation and federal accountability status for our schools. At the start of each new section of material, I will call out what we are referring to as headline news, the key takeaways for each section. Do I have, sorry. Oh, sorry, here it is right here. Thank you. Apologies. As you know, the Virginia Department of Education annually releases SOL pass rates that are published on their website and are part of the school quality profiles. These rates are not calculated based on accreditation rules for the state, which include growth and other adjustments. In headline news, pass rates improved on 43% of SOL tests. I will now review pass rates for each test, beginning with mathematics. The table on the screen displays SOL pass rates in mathematics. The leftmost column of the table lists the name of the test and pass rates for 18-19, which were pre-pandemic pass rates. Next, you will see our 22-23 and 23-24 pass rates. The math pass rates for 23-24 ranged from 50% in grade 7 math to 94% in Algebra 1. It is important to note that only 37% of grade 7 students participated in the grade 7 math SOL test. The remaining students take the grade 8 or Algebra 1 SOL test because those are the courses in which they are enrolled as 7th graders. The final column represents the change in pass rates from 22-23 to 23-24. When we compare the last 2 years, most pass rates remain the same or showed improvement from 1 to 3 percentage points. Algebra 1 and 2 both showed a slight decrease, but pass rates were 92 and 94% respectively. As you can see on the left of the chart, the geometry pass rate was 3 percentage points higher than the pre-pandemic rate, and Algebra 1 and 2 were within a few percentage points from the pre-pandemic rate. In 23-24, the pass rates for reading ranged from 77% in grade 3 reading to 90% in grade 11. When comparing the last 2 years of data, pass rates either stayed the same or showed slight increases on all tests except for grade 8 reading, which showed a 2 percentage point decrease. As you can see on the left of the table, the grades 3, 4, and 11 reading pass rates were within 1 to 2 percentage points of pre-pandemic rates. In writing, the grade 8 test was not administered due to the administration of the integrated reading and writing assessment. For this year's integrated reading and writing test, a single performance score was not provided. The grade 11 pass rate was 81%, 1 percentage point lower than in 22-23. In 23-24, science pass rates ranged from 51% in chemistry to 92% in earth science. It is important to note that the Virginia Department of Education determined that starting in 1819, students in high school would only be required to take SOL tests for courses when they needed verified credit or the test was required by federal law under the Every Student Succeeds Act, otherwise known as ESSA. And for this reason, some high school SOL assessments have fewer students participating than prior to this change, when all students enrolled in a course were required to take the SOL test. The earth science pass rate includes middle and high school students, but because of the increase in 9th grade students enrolling in environmental science over the past several years, only 112 high school students took the earth science SOL test, compared to almost 2,700 high school students in 1819. In chemistry, only 154 students took the SOL in 23-24, compared to approximately 570 in 1819. Prior to the change in high school testing requirements, 3,700 students participated in this assessment. When comparing the last 2 years of data, with the exception of chemistry and earth science, pass rates improved on all science tests, and improvements ranged from 1 to 2 percentage points. As you can see, the end of course earth science pass rate was 4 percentage points higher in 23-24 when compared to pre-pandemic rates. In the area of history, pass rates in 23-24 ranged from 36% in World History 2 to 81% in Grade 8 Civics and Economics. In 23-24, 342 students took the World History 2 SOL test compared to a little over 3,800 students in 1819 when the high school testing change mentioned previously first occurred. In 23-24, about 1,200 students took the Virginia and U.S. History SOL test compared to a little over 5,000 students in 1819. When comparing the last 2 years of data, World History 1 and World History 2 showed increases. World Geography stayed the same, while the other tests showed decreases. The World History 1 pass rate is only 1 percentage point lower in 23-24 when compared to pre-pandemic rates. In summary, Virginia Beach City Public School pass rates showed improvements on 12 out of 28 tests, remained the same on 8 tests, and showed decreases on 8 tests. Next, we'll take a look at data by student reporting groups in the areas of math and reading. In headline news, most reporting groups showed improvement in math, and in reading, the English Learner Reporting Group showed a 4 percentage point gain. On this chart, you will see data for each reporting group in the area of mathematics. The leftmost column of the table lists reporting groups, and pre-pandemic pass rates. The columns that follow show pass rates from the past 2 years and the change comparing them. When comparing reporting groups in math, pass rates in 23-24 ranged from 46% for students with disabilities to 91% for students in the Asian reporting group. Although all but Asian showed an increase in pass rates, the lowest pass rates were in the students with disabilities, English learners, and Black student reporting groups. When comparing the last 2 years of data, pass rates in math tests for each reporting group showed a 1 to 2 percentage point increase, except for the Hispanic reporting group, which stayed the same. When comparing reporting groups in reading, pass rates in 23-24 ranged from 49% for students with disabilities and 90% for students in the Asian reporting group. The lowest pass rates were in the reporting groups for students with disabilities, English learners, and Black students. When comparing the last 2 years of data, pass rates either remained the same or increased for all reporting groups except for the Black reporting group. And notice the English learner reporting group made the most gains with a 4 percentage point gain. To provide perspective, we compared annual SOL pass rates of Virginia Beach to pass rates for the state of Virginia. In headline news, Virginia Beach students as a group outperformed the state on 27 of the 29 SOL tests. This table lists each of the SOL tests that are administered in grades 3 through 8 in Virginia Beach and across the state. Each column represents the year in which the data were compared. The number in each cell represents the differences between our division pass rate and the state pass rate from each of the listed tests. Positive numbers indicate that the division's pass rate was higher than the state's rate, and the numerical value indicates by how much. For example, in 23-24, the grade 3 reading pass rate for Virginia Beach students as a group was 10 percentage points higher than the pass rate at the state level in the same year. Looking at the years of data represented on the screen, Virginia Beach exceeded the state pass rate on all of the 3 through 8 SOL tests except for Virginia Studies, where students scored the same, and in grade 7 math. It is likely we are not comparing apples to apples when looking at grade 7 math. Virginia Beach encourages most grade 7 students to take pre-algebra, which is assessed by a different test. That's the grade 8 test, and that practice is not a requirement throughout the state of Virginia. This table represents differences on the end of course tests, and Virginia Beach exceeded the state pass rate on all SOL tests in 23-24. We also compared the SOL pass rates of Virginia Beach to SOL pass rates of our local school divisions and a few other comparable divisions. In headline news, Virginia Beach students as a group outperformed other Hampton Roads cities. When comparing Hampton Roads' 7 cities, Virginia Beach City Public Schools as a group, students as a group outperformed all other cities in all subject areas except for math, where Chesapeake and Virginia Beach had the same pass rate. This slide compares the division's performance to other comparable divisions from across the state. And when looking at pass rates by subject, Virginia Beach Schools students as a group outperformed all listed comparable divisions in reading and in science. In addition to assigning pass rates, the state also accredits school in Virginia based on percent of passing tests combined with tests that show growth from one year to the next, chronic absenteeism, and for high schools, graduation dropout rate, and college and career and civics readiness data. At this time, I'm not going to review all the indicators and how they are calculated, as we just reviewed some of that information over the summer, and because I'm going to be back with you on October 8th to explain the new accountability system as we move forward. So the state accreditation status and data shared tonight is preliminary because it hasn't been posted by the Virginia Department of Education, but I have no reason to believe it's going to change. at this point. In headline news, 94% of the many school quality indicators across all schools met the expected benchmarks. For the 24-25 school year, all but one of our schools are accredited, and Williams Elementary School is accredited with conditions. When we take a deeper look at how many schools received a level 1 performance rating, which is meeting the benchmark or higher, we see there were 58 schools that had final performance levels of 1 for all indicators, which equals 70% of our schools. This is 26% more, 26 more schools than last year, reaching level 1 benchmarks. Each elementary school and middle school had 20 individual indicators to meet. Each high school had 23. Excluding indicators that had less than 30 students, which is too small to calculate, there were data for 1,659 indicators in our division. Our schools met the level 1 benchmark for 1,553 indicators, which is a little more than 93% of the indicators compared to last year, which was 85%. This is good news, but we still have a lot of work to do, and some of our schools will require additional assistance based on the ratings they will receive. When looking at accreditation indicators for the all students reporting group, we have one school that earned a level 2 in math and some schools that earned a level 2 or 3 in science. On the right, you will see gap group data. These are the data for other reporting groups that are monitored. There are 3 schools that earned a level 2 for the gap groups in English, and for math, some schools that earned a level 2 with one school earning a level 3. The Virginia Department of Education provides divisions information regarding the Virginia Continuous Improvement Process. The schools on the left will all receive support for this process and will be monitored by the school division. The same process will be required of the level 3 school on the right. The level 2 schools on the right will also be supported and monitored by the school division. Last fall, I shared with you the plan you see here to address chronic absenteeism. In 22-23, we had 36 schools at level 2 for chronic absenteeism and 8 schools at level 3, and that's when I last talked to you about this data. In 23-24, only one school was identified at level 2. All other schools were at level 1, meeting the benchmark. Schools will continue to closely monitor attendance data. Multiple offices and departments will continue to be available for support for our schools throughout the year. In high school accreditation, there is a College Career and Civic Readiness Index. This indicator represents the percentage of graduates who have received credit for advanced coursework or have earned a CTE credential and completed a CTE program of study, or have participated in a service experience or a work-based learning experience. Last year, we shared the plan you see here in regards to the CCCRI. In 22-23, 8 high schools were at level 2 in this category, and for 23-24, all but 2 high schools reached the level 1 benchmark. In addition to accreditation ratings from the Virginia Department of Education, schools in Virginia are also held to federal accountability standards implemented as part of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA. Unlike the state system where ratings are assigned, the federal accountability system is used to identify schools across the state most in need of additional support. In headline news, 69 schools met the federal required 95% participation on all SOL tests for all reporting groups, 13 more schools than last year. At this time, the Department of Education has not yet informed schools whether or not they have been designated for support and improvement under ESSA, but as we get any information, we'll be sure to share that with you. But under federal accountability, the schools are to test at least 95% of all students in all student groups. 69 schools, or 84%, met the 95% participation rate. We had 13 schools that did not meet the 95% participation rate for one or more groups. The Department of Education's Office of School Quality requires that schools that do not meet this 95% participation develop a plan, which includes action steps for improving participation rates and monitoring these plans. Participation data has been shared with schools and analyzed to determine the reasons for which students were not tested. For the high schools, which are most of the schools that have been identified, all students who did not participate in the ESSA required test did participate in another assessment to earn their verified credit. Most of these students chose to skip the required Algebra 1 test during COVID and took geometry the following year for their verified credit. Without an Algebra 1 test, students are considered non-participants in high school. This should not be an issue moving forward, as most of these students have now graduated. With the support of the Office of Student Assessment, schools will now create goals and strategies for improvement for any other students who did not participate. There were many bright spots when examining SOL pass rates and accountability for our schools, as well as areas requiring additional focus. With respects to accomplishments, although most pass rates were lower in 23-24 than pre-pandemic rates, 12 out of the 28 tests increased from 22-23. Overall, geometry and earth science showed pass rates that were higher than pre-pandemic, and 6 other tests were within 1 to 2 percentage points away from pre-pandemic rates. When reviewing all students as a group in comparison to students across the state, Virginia Beach continues to outperform the state on 27 of the 29 tests. We also outperformed local school divisions in reading, writing, science, and history, and tied for the highest pass rate in math. Virginia Beach students as a group outperformed comparable school divisions in reading and science. And 94% of the many school quality indicators across all schools met the expected benchmarks. And finally, more schools met the required 95% participation on all tests for all student groups. It is important that we focus on continuous improvement in all subject areas, but areas requiring additional focus do include those listed on the slide. We are committed to improving the performance of all of our students, and the data examining student group performance makes it clear that we need to continue our focus on students with disabilities, English language learners, and Black students. We will need to remain focused on continuous improvement for our reporting groups that are not meeting the level 1 benchmarks. Schools with level 2 and 3 indicators will be working closely with division leaders throughout the year. And I'll have here tonight Matthew Delaney, our Chief Schools Officer, will now share how we will continue to address these areas of focus.
Thank you, Tracy. That's a lot to digest, obviously, a lot of numbers to process. So I think it's important that we all recognize there's many successes worthy of celebrating. A couple of data points that really jumped out to me was that 58 of our schools had a final performance level of level 1, which is 26 more than the previous school year. Our schools met level 1 benchmark. This number always blows me away, 1,553 indicators. That is more than 93% of the indicators compared to 85% last year. So a couple of things I think that we really want to celebrate, but it's also clear that we still have challenges that really require strategic and comprehensive efforts. You've seen this slide on the screen last year when we did a similar presentation. I think it provides some context on how we strategically work to ensure our students are academically succeeding in a manner that prepares them to be future ready. When I meet with principals, we call this the funnel, and I'll break it down with a little bit of context here. The process begins with our strategic plan, Compass to 2025. You received at the school board retreat, Dr. Bannicky provided an overview of the strategic action agenda for 24-25 school year. So we start right at the top. What is our strategic plan? What are then we going to focus on for the current year in our strategic action agenda? This strategic action agenda encompasses three main areas: advancing educational equity, using integrated systems of support, and creating future-ready students. With each focus area, there's key components schools look to execute. So for example, in our Creating Future Ready, there's an emphasis placed on delivering evidence-based literacy and mathematics instruction to ensure all Virginia Beach City Public School students are proficient readers, writers, mathematical thinkers, and communicators. We also place an emphasis on working to build the capacity of all of our staff to adapt their teaching practices to address diverse student needs for the purpose of increasing academic achievement, growth, and belonging of students. I share those two because they really correlate with a lot of the student achievement data you just reviewed. So at the leadership conference that you hear that we do every year, we really focus on assisting building leaders on how they're going to execute that strategic action agenda. They take that strategic action agenda back to their schools and they look to modify what we call their school concept map. All of our schools over the past 3 years and centers have a school-based concept map, and it's essentially a one-page elevator speech document that provides clarity for school-based staff on the focus areas for the year. Just encourage you whenever you're visiting a school to ask the principal to share their concept map with you. They're often posted in classrooms and across the school. So from the concept map, we then require all schools to complete a plan for continuous improvement, which is known as the PCI. This document involves setting of goals and action steps to achieve those goals. School-based PCIs really focus on our literacy goals, numeracy goals, and future-ready/SEL goals. Schools that are in level 3 status in a particular area must have a goal to address this status. For example, our level 3 schools in science will have a PCI goal and action steps or strategies to address this focus area. Collectively, we monitor performance and adjust action steps in response to student data throughout the year. This continuous improvement process is done in collaboration with the Department of School Leadership and the Department of Teaching and Learning, along with our school-based staff. And the final area on the slide is essentially what we say is where the rubber meets the road, and that's what's taking place in the classroom and how we do our classroom observation and the feedback we provide teachers. Over the past 3 years, we provided extensive training to our administrators on how to give feedback that empowers, validates, and grows our teachers. We also want to ensure that the feedback we are providing to teachers is aligned to the professional learning they receive, the work taking place in the PLCs, and the goals of the PCI. Over this 3-year period, administrators have conducted more than 36,000 classroom observations. We want to ensure these interactions and feedback sessions have an impact on teacher capacity and provide a learning environment where each student is performing at their highest potential. So again, a quick summary of the funnel. We start with strategic action agenda, move down to the school-based concept map, which drives the PCI, and then lends itself to what takes place in the classroom. Over the past several years, we have utilized the strategic school support process to regularly analyze data and collaborate with our school-based leaders to ensure schools receive the support they need to achieve the educational excellence and remain fully accredited. Schools are provided levels of support based on their needs as identified in the data. Schools are identified for either universal, targeted, or intensive support. This collaborative problem-solving approach brings leaders from school leadership, curriculum, testing, special education, and student support service offices to the table with our school leaders to ensure comprehensive review of progress and needs is regularly analyzed to respond. All schools have regularly scheduled school support process meetings and check-ins with central support leaders to ensure they have what they need. We want to ensure that resources are allocated in a manner that addresses the needs of our students, teachers, and building leaders. To be clear, our schools are all provided with incredible amount of universal support, as you guys hear throughout presentations during the year, such as curriculum and professional learning resources, tutoring resources and funds, and funding for materials. We're so fortunate to be able to fund school-based specialists in our schools, such as GRTs, ITSs, LMSs, literacy coaches, and math coaches as well. We firmly believe this process has contributed greatly to our overall success because it provides us with the necessary flexibility to differentiate our response to schools and student needs based on the most relevant data points. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Ms. Kendrick?
Thank you. Thank you for this report. It's just really good to see the achievements of our division, especially as it pertains to the entire state and the region. I want to focus on slide 11 with the, reporting on the reading. I appreciate that you all listed this concern that I'm sure jumped out at all of us that saw this in your areas of focus. The student with disabilities, the English learners, and the Black children with such low passing rates. But it is the fact that the Black children are regressing with the year. They're the only ones that are regressing here. So could you share more about what your findings are as to why this is happening? Because we can't address a problem without knowing the cause. So were you able to have you begun to look into why there's regressing here?
It's an interesting question that you ask, because I'm not sure there's a real simple answer to your question. What I do appreciate about the question and what happens in these presentations, we get caught up on numbers, and we don't always recognize there's sets of eyeballs behind every one of those numbers. And I think that's what you're speaking to in the question. We are fortunate in many areas that we provide we have consistent data that we get reported to try to respond to in a very collaborative and collective manner. To say what the cause is from a school-based division it's a difficult question to answer, because I do believe it's a collaborative community effort to ensure that our kids are reading on grade level. I could turn to Ms. Colucci as more of the curriculum expert on literacy practices if she wants to share from there. I apologize. It's just a hard one to just embrace in this moment.
I agree with Mr. Delaney. It's hard to pinpoint a cause. I see what you're looking at with that. I think that our principals absolutely prioritize looking at every reporting group of students and individually by name, which is what he was referring to when he said the eyes behind the numbers, the students, the people, their stories. We have emphasis on making sure that no individual or no reporting group is falling through the cracks in any way, and that we're programming effectively to motivate them, engage them. I am proud of the fact that structured literacy is a priority in the school division. The Virginia Literacy Act, the addition of reading specialists at the middle school level, the training that we're undergoing, although it's overwhelming our teachers, the amount of work that involves. I think these are all steps that we believe in, and as long as we're supporting our teachers and that load that they have to carry, that we will make a difference and continue to see some progress. What I'm really proud of is that our initiatives and our focus on small group instruction, and that really does take the data apart at instructional leadership meetings, weekly grade level collaboration, so they're not just teaching through. Teachers are looking at data by each individual student and grouping them by need and trying to close the gaps that exist. So it's hard to answer the question like Mr. Delaney said, but I can share the huge amount of effort that is put into meeting the
Looking into
individual
why
needs.
that regression is potentially happening. Okay.
If I can follow up, because I now had a moment to kind of compose a thought as you went through that, as we talked about this school support process, but I think you've also heard presentations on our tiered interventions of support and the data that goes into that process. So we talk about tier 1 instruction, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Mr. Jamison did a presentation on that, I think, in the last board meeting around those interventions. Those interventions are all based on student data, individual student data, to include things such as chronic absenteeism.
Okay.
So as a student coming to school on a daily basis, if they are not, we know the impact that is going to have on their ability to obtain grade level reading standards. Is it a behavioral issue that is a concern? And how are we managing that behavior through our student response team process, the student with an IEP or a 504 through that process as well? So it's a challenging question to answer because every student sometimes has unique needs and unique situations that
Of course.
need to be addressed. And I think that's part of what I would look at as that key component of Mr. Jameson's presentation last board meeting on tiered interventions and support is another area that we really look at.
Well, I'm glad that you're looking into why this is happening. This is the only group that shows regression here, and so I appreciate that you're looking into that. My other question was, during slide 19, you mentioned that the only school that didn't have full accreditation was Betty F. Williams. You said that Betty F. Williams was accredited with conditions. What is the plan to help to get them fully accredited?
So with help from our division staff, Betty F. Williams, as well as the other schools that had any level 3 or 2 benchmarks, will go through a needs assessment to analyze data to determine where the school's needs are and create goals and action steps to move towards improvement. And they will have full support of all the departments in the division to help them with their goals.
They are obviously a school that is in that level that we talked about, intense support. Dr. Hamlin, the Senior Executive Director of Elementary Schools, has been meeting with Betty F. Williams on a consistent basis. I believe she was there even today doing learning walks to ensure that the capacity is built up of our teachers. We have several resources that are in that building, from community and schools to student support specialists. The challenge we want to make sure is all of that is manageable and they're all working as an aligned group to address the needs of that building, the needs of the students there. So we have a pretty full court press to ensure they have what they need, for sure. And it is certain, when we talk about intense schools, we are meeting with them much more often than those in universal support, and ensuring that if we need to move support and resources into that area as a result of another school succeeding, we will look at those opportunities to do it. So they are certainly on our radar, and I know Dr. Hamlin is really doing a lot of work with the entire tri-campus to ensure they are understanding how the second and third graders need to be progressing to be ready for fourth and fifth grade. So it's a pretty comprehensive view of what we're trying to do with the tri-campus right now.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Manning?
Thank you so much. When we receive these presentations, we normally also get pass advanced rates. And I've looked at those. You don't need to provide them to me. I've thoroughly looked at all the SOL scores. Is that something, I think we have some work to do there. Is that something that the PCIs are addressing and focusing on?
I think you'll hear more about that at the October 8th presentation that they're going to do on the new accreditation standards, where I know there's some pass advanced components within that document. We certainly, when we look at creating future-ready students, it's not always looking at the end that needs additional support. It's saying, are we extending mastery to students that are prepared for that? Advanced levels is challenging because you have to motivate a student to want to hit all of those numbers. And that is always one when we work with our schools that have very high pass rates. We do encourage them to really take a look at your pass advanced numbers, because the growth number is not always as significant there. So what is our percentage? So it is certainly, when we're stretching our schools, many of them, we are stretching them to see where their pass advanced numbers.
So is this something that's a topic in the PCIs?
It's not in every PCI. It can be a topic in a school support meeting, but we don't require that in there. It is something when we look at their data. For example, we take with all of our schools, we let them see their comparable schools. So schools that are, and how are they performing against that group, and we'll bring that type of data to those school support meetings and stretch them in there, but we do not require an advanced number as a goal in the PCI. Schools may choose to do that throughout their process where they work with their teachers.
Okay, I hope it's something we're emphasizing in our
Yes.
division.
Mr. Culpepper?
Yeah, going back to slide 11 for a second, you don't need to run far down this rabbit hole, but I'm curious if, Ms. Kendrick was asking specifically about black students. Do you see that trend consistent across schools, or are there some that are doing better than others?
It's not, I would not overgeneralize where it is in schools in terms of, there are some that we're seeing different levels of performance based on gap groups. I'm not going to use African-American students. I'll talk about special education students as an example. We do have several of our schools that have special education data that looks a lot better than other schools do. As a result of that, a lot of what we do in our league meetings with our principals and professional development is highlight the practices that are occurring in those school buildings that are bringing success. and sharing best practices in all of those areas. It's very challenging year to year when you look at gap groups because it is numbers based. So my numbers of special education students can change year to year that are tested, and that makes it sometimes hard to determine what that growth rate is going to look like to be seen as a success.
Okay, you answered my question, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Franklin?
Well, I just wanted to address Ms. Kendrick real quick. Ms. Kendrick, I just want to let you know that Renaissance is now utilizing Avid. So I think that hopefully we will see an increase in some of those scores at that school. And what's great about that, it's going to spread at that point because as they go back to their home school, then they'll be able to take those strategies with them, as well as GRC. GRC is more Avid focused as well now. And so again, some of those students, because it is a lottery system to get into the school, some of those students do come in with lower comprehension. And so I think that because they're utilizing and being more Avid focused at GRC, that's why they're seeing a lot of their success as well. So I'm really happy that we're seeing Avid being utilized in some of the schools that really need some more focus. So I just want to let you know that.
Thank you. May I
Mr.
respond? Oh, sure. Thank you. I did have a chance to visit Renaissance last week, and I did see that program, and I do think it is very effective, and I do look forward to seeing that spread across yeah, thanks for your work on that.
Okay, Mr. Callen?
On slide 4, Mr. Delaney, there is mathematical SOL test results, and we cover them from various time periods, but we're only making a comparison and a change, at least from a comprehensive point of view, comparing 22-23 with 23-24. You start with some of the data dealing with calendar year 18 and 19, but we leave out a great majority of it. We do the same thing on slide 5 and on slide 6. And I don't want to be cynical, but it tends to leave me with an impression that we don't want to talk about that too much. We'll mention a couple of the scores, the ones that make us look pretty good, but we won't bring up the others. We'll just move on and do a 2-year comparison instead of a pre-pandemic comparison.
Are you looking beyond 18-19, or are you looking after 18-19?
I'm just looking at the numbers provided from 18-19 and comparing them with 23-24.
So that is not intentional so that we don't look at that data.
I don't want to be cynical, but it lends me to feel that way.
This is probably the last year we'll leave the 18-19 data pre-pandemic because our tests are going to change so much as we move forward and cut scores are going to change so much. We left that there for comparison of pre-pandemic because that's a big question. How are we doing now after the pandemic? It was not to for the purpose of not discussing the other scores, the other years aren't there. It's a lot of data. We provide our schools with 5 years of data to look at when they're making decisions, and I can certainly provide more, but it's a lot of information, so it was really designed to kind of focus on the year-to-year, last year change.
Because I sense throughout these meetings that we're really trying to get back to a place where we can say, here's where we were before the pandemic hit. Now, we all fell into a trough, and we're coming out of that.
Yes.
So
We're
let's do
coming
that
out.
comparison between where we are today and where we were pre-pandemic. So I know that's
Okay.
been part of our conversation on many a times, and so it just seems like we started down that path with
Yeah.
this report, but we came up short.
Another thing I wanted to share is the year of the pandemic, we didn't test. In the following year, some students tested, but we didn't have accreditation, so we didn't calculate scores because I think we were at a less than 50% rate of students who actually took the test. So there are 2 years we haven't reported anyway. And again, it was to have fewer numbers to look at, but as you can tell from the text, we've been improving each year as we report the data. And I'll be happy to share some additional data with you if you're interested.
I would be interested.
Okay.
Continuing on.
Yes.
There was also a section that dealt with pass rate comparisons between grades 3 through 8, comparing BBCPS with the Commonwealth, i.e. the state. If I heard you correctly, that may answer my question, but let me make sure I heard you correctly. Because my question that I was concluding as I was reviewing this material in advance was, you give me a lot of numbers and you give me a lot of dates, but you don't tell me who's in column VBCPS and who's in column Virginia. But what I heard you say, if I heard you correctly, was the numbers that are shown are the numbers that reflect the difference between the two.
Yes. So Virginia Beach students outperformed by 10 percentage points in grade 3 reading compared to all of Virginia,
Okay,
the state pass rate.
okay.
So it is the
So this is
difference
just
between the two.
The net result.
Correct.
Okay. I think that's all.
Okay, Ms. Brown.
Okay. All right, so I have the Williams Elementary pass rates over the last 10 years here. And, you know, on slide 19, which you don't need to skip to it because it's just a circle chart. You mentioned that there was accreditation with conditions. What are those conditions?
So schools that meet the expected benchmarks are accredited. And if a school does not meet the expected benchmarks and they're not in their triennial review, the next level of that they're awarded is accredited with conditions. So the continuum is accredited with conditions, which Williams is in, and then denied accreditation is the next level. And those are the three categories the school can be rated in accreditation.
Okay. So I guess what I'm asking is, what are we going to do differently as a division? Because it seems to me that there's been some challenges with the SOLs here for some time. And so what are we going to do differently to work on this?
I can answer part of the question by saying that they'll be required to do a needs assessment, which they'll have to review their data and determine what the cause is of the pass rates that they have, and what they'll then determine what goals they need to put in place and strategies to reach those goals to improve those numbers. I am sure there are other instructional answers, but that's the required state piece, and our local school division will support and monitor the work they do there.
Okay.
So just let me follow that, Ms. Brown, because I appreciate the question, and I know there's a presentation later tonight as well that talks about some things, but I think an important thing to recognize with Williams is they do not have a set of third graders that scores come in for. So they are in a very unique scenario where they only get scores for fourth and fifth graders. So that does provide a unique challenge for Williams that no other comprehensive elementary school does. We continue to have consistent monitoring, walking in classrooms, working with professional development of the teachers to ensure there's clarity in the standards that exist in the classroom, that the teachers are teaching the standards, that they're prepared to do that. We put a heavy emphasis on behavior management through what we've done there in year 2 of what we looked at with BIST, which is a behavior management process that a few of our schools have taken on. And there is more consistent data review around in-time performance of our students. We've done that over the years. It's still a challenge, and it's going to continue to be a challenge, frankly. It's a heavy lift to move through there. When you look at our science SOLs, for example, on the elementary school level, I think this is the 3rd year of the new SOL assessment for science. That's why you see a few more schools there. And the support we can provide to that school is ongoing. But the different answer is we've just intensified the number of supports and how we're providing supports to teachers on a day-to-day basis in that building. I think it's also important to note it's not always clear for what our 5th graders do take. Our 5th graders are our most tested group in elementary school. So they do take 4 SOL assessments in that year. So ensuring that they're getting the instruction from those teachers is something we look at very heavily.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Is that the last word?
No, I mean, yes, I was just gonna add, it always makes me sad not to see, not to be presented the opportunity to see growth. And, like, was there growth with those kids? Like, even if they failed, did they do better than they did last year? And I think that growth piece is important to present. We don't always hear that, but, Dr. Robertson.
Some, a little frustrated. We look at this data, you've asked some really good questions, but I haven't heard congratulations to staff for phenomenal work. 29 SOL tests in the state of Virginia. We crushed the state on 27 of them.
We did, and it deserves an applause.
1,533 of those measures, we are level 1.
Yep.
We increased the number of schools that have addressed those areas. And yes, we have a school for the first time since 2015. And I want to remind you, in 2011, we had 16 schools not accredited.
That's correct.
12 the next year, 10 the next year, until I developed a process with some members that are still here, including Ms. Woodhouse, the school support process that we use right now, that has been replicated across the Commonwealth, that got us recognized in 2018 as one of the top 25 school divisions in the entire country. I think what we should be doing is going, wow, yes, we embrace our areas of concern. That's why we get the results we get. And we're always going to be driving for the Super Bowl. But I'm really disappointed that I think that.
So let me also, for the record, the science SOL for fifth graders is a cumulative SOL, correct? Is it still a combination of fourth and fifth grade material? I'm seeing some, I
Yes.
thought so, yeah. All right. That's always bothered me, the cumulative SOLs, that's a tough one. All right, Miss Anderson.
So, Dr. Robertson, the reason you didn't hear praise is because I hadn't spoken yet. But I did want to say that, I appreciate that our staff pointed out what our deficiencies were and how we're going to work to improve those things. But you're right. Most of it was pointed out that we were ahead of the state in most categories. And we certainly smoked it for around the regional area as well. So, thank you to this staff for supporting our teachers. Thank you to the teachers who are out there who need that pat on the back, because they're the ones who do the work for us, a lot of the work. And the staff, I know you do a lot of work too, but for the most part, the teachers are the ones who touch the children. So thank you all for all you've done. And yes, we've got some work to do, but from what I hear, you're going to roll up your sleeves, and that's what we're going to do this year. We're going to try to make up for that.
We roll them up every year, Miss Anderson.
Yeah.
I think those of you that have taught in education, you recognize you typically spend, for using a sports analogy, more time on the losses than you do the wins. And so there's never a time, as I said to Miss Kendrick, if we're missing by 10%, that's a lot of kids that we worry about. And I think when we talk about Williams and other schools, people don't sleep well at night. They're working really hard. And the growth is showing, but there's still kids that we're concerned, are they prepared to go to the next step? And we talk future ready, and even when we talk about pass advanced and other things such as that, that's ensuring that they are ready for a future that is out in front of them at a higher level. And I'm proud of the work that's going on with chronic absenteeism as well.
Yeah,
Moving
that's
that number, we have
impressive.
kids showing up at a higher level, and our grad rate is the highest it's ever been. So we're using a similar process of talking about what kids' needs and responding to those needs. So appreciate them.
Ms. Riggs?
You just took my thunder, Matt.
I always do, Miss Riggs. I just wait.
I
till
was
wait till
definitely-
your name goes on the
That's
board.
right.
All I'm gonna
I was
step in.
definitely going to say that because I've been there. I've done that. This is something we have done for years, and it's worked. If you look at the numbers in 2018-19, and then, of course, why would we put 19, 20, and 22? I mean, they were COVID numbers, okay? We know what happened, all right? So then you bring back the last year and then this year. It's phenomenal what we've done. And yes, we as teachers, and I consider myself a teacher, are constantly looking, what did we do wrong? What else do we need to do? It's a constant question. It's a constant question for the African American, the Black community. Always with that. For our special needs, our English learners. It's always been, what else can we do? And we continue to work on that. It's a never-ending process, and it never will end until we get them where we want them. So I have to say, kudos to you, Dr. Robertson, for speaking up for your staff and for the things that our people have done. What they've accomplished, our teachers, our administrators, our support staff, in these past 2 years has been phenomenal, and the numbers show it. We are still the school system that we have always been, one of the top in the nation, not just Virginia, but the nation. And we should all be proud of that. Yes, there are questions, especially with people that are new and haven't been here and lived it. But this is something that the numbers are speaking for themselves. Our kids show it. The scholarships, the graduation rate. And look at the absenteeism, how that's improved. Oh my gosh. That's something that everybody is wringing their hands across the nation with. You read our VSBA newsletters, you read the national connection that we get every day, and it talks about it constantly. And what can we do about it? And we are one of the top school systems doing it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys need applause, and I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, Ms. Kendrick.
Thank you. When we play the tape back, I did open up my statement applauding you. I certainly did, Dr. Robertson. But I do, and it has nothing to do with being new on the board, to ask questions about things that we are all concerned about. So it was not a knock to anything that you're doing. I just asked, what were your findings? That was my question. So I hope that there was no one felt that I took away from the great work that this division is doing and the great performance that we have throughout the Commonwealth for simply asking a question about a school that is not fully accredited, and a group of people, 3 groups of people, one that just showed that they were regressing. I think it's okay to ask that question without diminishing the great achievements that you all, your staff, you have done. I've seen you all and the work that you do. When I'm out in the community, y'all are there. I run into you guys all the time. So it is never to take away from the great work that you're doing. But new or not, we all want to know these questions. So thank you so very much. And
I did not take
please know
that
that.
question at all like that.
Thank you.
It
I
was a good
appreciate
question,
that. I
Ms.
just
Kendrick.
want to bring that clarification since I'm the newest person on the board. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and so, you have another one? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you both. All right, and so now we'll move on to item D, new construction guidance, and we welcome Jack Freeman, Chief Operations Officer.
Sorry, I'm delayed. I'm still trying to find the sweet spot on this AC and heat, so
Right now, it feels great.
appreciate the patience. All right, good evening, Madam Chair Melnick, Vice Chair Franklin, members of the board, and Dr. Robertson. We met during the school board retreat in July, and we told you that we would be coming back to you to receive direction for the order of priority for the next 2 new construction schools. To effectively receive that direction from this elected body, it's most appropriate to receive your guidance through an action item. So with that as a goal, we shared a brief with you during workshop on August 13th and an information item on August 27th. We're back today with another information item, and this is scheduled for action at the next meeting. The goal of this process is to receive direction from the board for the next
new construction project. With this direction, we can then build an agreed-upon, executable capital program for FY 25-26. The two projects in the current capital program that are in contention to be the next new construction project are Williams Bayside 6 and Prince Anne High School. Staff needs the board to choose. We briefed you a couple of times that once we know which school is next, we can then work through the processes represented on this flow chart sequentially. There was clearly discomfort with working through these sequentially, and concern was shared around these two items. If Prince Anne High School is selected as the priority school, we gathered that there is a desire to address Bayside 6 and Williams in a different way than what was previously directed by the board. So this brief will focus on these two items. Let's start with Bayside 6. The Aragona property that currently houses Bayside 6 is in the worst condition of any building in our inventory. There are two basic things that we can do to get those students into a better built environment. We can build a new building, which would obviously improve the physical environment. This could happen by building a 4-5-6 school, which is the current direction from the board and is what is in the capital program. Another solution could be to build a standalone school for Bayside 6, but there's never been any previous consideration for this, but it is a potential option. Rather than building a new school to support these students, the board could direct these students to vacate the Aragona property and move back into Bayside Middle School. This is the quickest option to get those students out of the Aragona property. New construction would take many years, and these students could be moved back into Bayside Middle School as soon as next school year. It would be tight, but if the school board were to provide this direction soon, it is possible. One final thought. We've been having discussions about reducing the number of transitions for students in the tri-campus zone. If Bayside 6 students were to move back into Bayside Middle School, it would reduce one of the many transitions that these students currently experience. So those are the options for Bayside 6. Let's talk about tri-campus. It appears the board is aligning around interest in reducing the number of transitions for students in the tri-campus zone. Currently, students residing in this zone have 5 transitions by the time they get to high school. That's Diamond Springs to Newtown, Newtown to Williams, Williams to Bayside 6, Bayside 6 to Bayside 7-8, and then Bayside 7-8 to Bayside High School. Students in all other zones have 2 transitions, elementary school to middle school to high school. I acknowledge there's a little more nuance with some of our other programs in Virginia Beach City Public Schools and with families moving, but this is the case for the vast majority of students who live in the same area for their entire Virginia Beach City Public School career. So, options for the tri-campus. The board could choose to continue with the status quo and keep the existing tri-campus model. If this model were to continue, we have 2 buildings that are high on the list to replace with new construction. This could be a 4-5 school, or it could be a 4-5-6 school, which is the current direction the school board has given and is what is in our adopted capital program. If we were to move away from the tri-campus model, there are 2 options. We could proceed towards a bi-campus model, which adjusts Diamond Springs from a K-1 school to a K-2 school, and Newtown would shift from a 2-3 school to a 3-5 school. And this would reduce the number of transitions by 1. Another option would be to shift Diamond Springs and Newtown to a K-5 model, like every other school in Virginia Beach City Public Schools. And this would reduce the number of transitions for these students by 2. In either the bi-campus model or the K-5 model, there would be significant work to be done to ensure our building utilization numbers meet the needs for programming. Those adjustments may include rezoning, program adjustments, and potentially adding wings to the 2 buildings. If the board were to direct a move away from the tri-campus model, we would need to do some work to determine the best path. the bi-campus path or the K-5 path. Once we know this and the programming needs, we can then finalize the work around rezoning, reprogramming, and any needed modification to the two buildings to support the desired programs and population. With all that as background, we recommend board direct the staff to move Bayside 6 students back into Bayside Middle School as soon as school year 25-26. That's next school year. It would be tight, but achievable if the board were to act quickly. Second, we recommend the board direct staff to evaluate and recommend a preferred alternative to the tri-campus model. To be clear, if this direction were given, to do it right, it will take time. It isn't something that will be resolved in 1 to 2 months, but it will still be as quick or quicker than the proposed Williams new construction option. You've seen this slide several times. The old Aragona property, which currently houses our Bayside 6 students, scores worst from both a total condition index measure and a facilities condition index measure. If the board were to accept staff's recommendation, this would put our Bayside 6 students in a better physical environment way ahead of any potential new construction timeline, and it would reduce a transition. It would also put us in a position to dispose of the Aragona property and save operating budget money every year resulting from that disposal. And as you remember, the Building Utilization Committee directed staff to analyze the cost benefit of closing an elementary school for this year, and you'll hear that later at a future school board meeting from the BUC. Additionally, we've heard from members of the board expressing the desire to reduce the number of schools we maintain in our inventory, given the change of population that we've experienced for the last 2.5 decades. This recommendation aligns well with that expressed desire, and it does so with an elementary school that scores fourth worst from a facilities condition index perspective. This recommendation would also further reduce the number of transitions for the tri-campus students and put us on a path to dispose of a second property and the operating budget savings that goes with it. So what's the financial impact of this? Executing this recommendation naturally leaves Prince Anne High School as the priority school for new construction. This is the same slide you've seen several times related to debt service for Prince Anne High School. We're showing this to you again to compare it to the next slide. To proceed with Prince Anne High School as the priority new construction school would require an additional $3.8 million for 7 consecutive years, starting no later than FY28. The same information that we've shared with you in the past. Before I go any further, I need to say this up front. This is the worst estimate we are ever going to provide you. You asked us to provide you with an estimate to add wings to Diamond Springs and Newtown on very short notice without knowing what program will ultimately need to be supported. This is back of the napkin kind of math. We're sharing this with you only so that you can know the ballpark cost, what might be to shift from building a new Williams school to one of the other 2 options. And this would be worst case if we needed to add wings to support additional students at Diamond Springs and Newtown. With that very strong caveat, we estimate the cost of adding additional wings to both buildings to be approximately $25 million. So in the worst case, if we needed to add classrooms to support programming, we could bid that as early as 2026 at a cost of $25 million. Adding that $25 million cost to Prince Anne High School gives $313 million, and you can see that just to the right of the red box. And this is what debt service would look like. Instead of $3.8 million, we would need $4.1 million for 7 consecutive years, starting no later than FY28. That's just like the previous example. That's only a $0.3 million increase in debt service. And to be even more clear, that's an annual difference of $300,000 if we needed to go worst case and add wings to Diamond Springs and Newtown. This is the same slide we showed you at the retreat, and we don't intend to rehash it. It shows the recommendation on the table is achievable. If the recommendation is accepted by the board, there are 2 schools worth of saving resulting from school closures. And the savings of utility costs due to our energy reduction plan is estimated to be about $10 million just in FY '24 and '25, and that goes up every year. So in response to the feedback received at the August 27th meeting, this is staff's recommendation. Proceed with Prince Anne High School as the priority new construction project and create a proposed CIP to support that goal. The proposed CIP would include debt service and allocations to enable the execution of this plan. We recommend moving Bayside 6 students back to Bayside Middle School for next school year, and we recommend the school board direct staff to evaluate and recommend a preferred plan related to the tri-campus model. With that, I will open up for questions and discussion.
Ms. Anderson?
So, I basically, go back to slide 6, I guess it's slide 6, where it talks about there's 2 ways, two arrows going down. So one of them shows a bi-campus model. And I can see this working. I mean, I can visualize this working, K2 and then a 3-5 model, and with additional wings added onto those schools. And actually, I know $25 million is a lot, but it's a lot cheaper than if we'd have had to build a whole new school. So I'm not trying to go the cheaper route, but for the sake of what I think should be best for those children, those students, that would reduce them having to make another transition. They would go 3 years in one school, 3 years in another school, and then they would go to middle school. And to me, that just makes sense on what would be best for them. I want to do what's best for them, but I like this proposal, and I hope my board members, my fellow colleagues will embrace this as well. Thank you.
Okay, there are no further questions.
Okay, with that being the case, we'll be
Sorry, do you need direction today?
we are coming back to action at our next school board meeting.
Okay, and so I just want to make sure that I understand what we would be voting on. We would be voting on the package deal of Princess Anne and making sure that there would be either a bi-campus or K through 5 school model, correct?
I'm trying to get to the final slide, which includes the recommendation.
Right.
So, to state again, the action item will be Prince Anne High School to be the priority school, that the school board directs staff to move the Bayside 6 students back into Bayside Middle School for next school year, and then to direct staff to evaluate the tri-campus model and recommend a preferred option. And we showed you some potential options on a flow chart.
So I'm just gonna say this, it's very important to me, that the tri-campus model that we provide, improvement projects to Williams and the tri-campus area. And so the reason that I was asking is I'm concerned, evaluate and recommend a preferred plan. I'm concerned that preferred plan may be do nothing. And so, anyway, I understand, that we have to come up with something, but, I want to be sure. And the real reason is when we did the PPEA process, and this doesn't really require any answers, just my thoughts. We went out into the community, to Bayside High School and Betty F. Williams and Princess Anne, and members of the community they got really excited, about that new building and, in particular, the two that now are not really priority schools, are historically underserved communities, and I just feel like it's a bad look. Personally, it just doesn't feel right to me. So anyway, it's very important to me. I like the wings idea. I think that it is an option that does have some cost savings. We do have a lot of competing needs in the division with schools, and we do need to make sure that we do as much of our 86 buildings as possible. So I do recognize there's a lot of challenges. So anyway, there's my thoughts. Thank you.
Two quick ones. Do you have a rough idea of where that would put the middle school for capacity if you move Bayside 6 to there?
Yes, we briefed you that back in the April timeframe when we discussed what the
I don't remember
potential
that number,
option
do you?
was related to it. But it is, it's achievable, and we can keep the class sizes for a number of years, and then we would need to evaluate growth in that area over time and see what impact that would have. But they can fit.
That leads to my next question, which is you don't foresee, at least immediately, any rezoning associated with this. Maybe in the future based on that growth, but not now, right?
Correct. This would not involve any change. The Bayside 6 students would just move to Bayside 7-8 to become Bayside Middle School.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Callen. Mr. Callen.
Yeah, just to confirm, Mr. Freeman, your slide with the tri-campus options that you were showing earlier shows the bi-campus model or the K through 5 model, and it indicates in that scenario that it's two buildings. But in each of those two scenarios, we'd be using two buildings. Just wanted to confirm that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Okay.
So, one more thing. Because the thought occurred to a couple people, and they've spoken to me about it, and that is, if we went to the two elementary scenario where there were 3 K through 2 and then 3 through 5, then basically we would be closing Betty F. Correct? If that happened?
In either of the two scenarios here,
Right.
we
So,
would be.
so
building would
just
be-
a thought that I want to put out there, because Betty F. Williams, the name, is respected in the community quite a bit. And so my thought is, we don't have to lose that name. One of those other two schools could take on the name of Betty F. Williams. We could just rename one of the other schools. So I just want to throw that out there for a community to know that we wouldn't just disband, because she was a very respected educator in our community for several years, and that's why they chose, she did a lot for the community as well. That's why they chose to name a school after her. So I just want to throw it out there that I wouldn't want to just throw away that name. I want that name to continue. I mean, I won't be on the board when all this happens, but I'll certainly come and speak when it's, when that comes up. Thank you.
If we did get to that
Oh,
point,
I'm sorry.
we have had similar discussions with the staff on that. So thank you for sharing.
Oh,
that publicly.
excellent. Ms. Kendrick?
Yes, I echo Ms. Anderson's remarks around the history that we need to make sure that we preserve. And being as Newtown Elementary and Diamond Springs Elementary are named after streets, it seems to me like naming one of those schools after Betty F. Williams might make sense. Or the bi-campus, now that it will no longer be the tri-campus, could be the Betty F. Williams Learning Center or complex or something like that. But that's one thing that I've heard in the community, that we have to make sure that we honor her legacy and that we don't let that go away. With the two different modeling options, so rezoning would be required for both the bi-campus model and the K-5?
We don't know. That's why
Okay.
we would need to evaluate that. Certainly if
Okay.
it's the K-5, we would need to draw lines differently.
But if we did the bi-campus model, we may not need to do rezoning.
Potentially.
Okay,
But we
thank
need
you.
to evaluate it fully.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for your great work on providing an option C. This is a pretty good option C, so thank you.
Ms. Riggs?
I keep pushing off. I was gonna mention that Ms. Kendrick and I were talking about this earlier with Dr. Robertson, and she was very adamant about the name that you brought up because she's talked to her community, and they're like, so that's important, and I think that would be one of the major things that we would look at if we decide to go with either one of those. I think we talked about the name the other day, which was great, the learning complex. But yeah, I think it's just what you guys have done. You've brought this third option to us, which is what everybody asked about. And we really appreciate it because you went back and did it in a couple of weeks. So thank you for answering all of our questions, coming back with this third option. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. We'll see you next board meeting.
See you next time. Okay, and our last item for information this evening is the safe gun storage resolution. And from her seat on the dais, the presenter is Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. So, this is called Resolution for Safe Gun Storage. And this is just for information tonight, and we'll be voting on it at the next meeting. And it goes like this. Whereas firearm injuries are the #1 killer of children and teens in the United States. And whereas almost every single day a child accesses a gun and unintentionally kills or injures themselves or someone else in the United States. And whereas the school board of the City of Virginia Beach recognizes and mourns the multiple lives of students who have been lost to gun violence and firearm injuries over the past few years and strives to prevent the senseless loss of additional young lives to firearm-related deaths. And whereas Virginia Beach City Public Schools is committed to educating and supporting the children of Virginia Beach in a safe community and safe schools. And whereas research shows that one of the best ways to protect children from accessing firearms is making sure all guns are stored unloaded, locked, and separate from ammunition. And whereas steps can be taken by gun owners and non-gun owners alike to make sure kids cannot access a gun and put themselves and others in danger. And whereas an estimated 54% of gun owners do not lock all their guns securely, and an estimated 4.6 million children live in a home with at least one unlocked and loaded gun in the United States. And whereas when guns are not properly stored, tragedy can strike, whether it is a child finding a firearm and injuring or killing themselves or someone else, or someone stealing it and using it to commit crime in our communities. And whereas Virginia Beach City Public Schools educating the public on the crucial role of reducing injuries and deaths by promoting secure gun storage and safety so that children can live in a safe community and attend school in a safe environment. Now therefore be it resolved that the school board of the City of Virginia Beach encourages all citizens of Virginia Beach to support secure gun storage and safety. And be it further resolved that the school board of the City of Virginia Beach encourages all citizens of Virginia Beach to practice gun safety for the well-being of all students and children in the City of Virginia Beach. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board. So I took some of when I was writing this, I took some of these whereas statements from the proclamation that was done by our city council.
By the mayor.
By the mayor on August 26th, and he declared August 26th to August 30th Smart Week. So some of these statements actually came from this proclamation that the mayor made for our city. So I feel like we owe it to our children and to the citizens of Virginia Beach to proclaim this resolution as safe gun storage time. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. Brown.
Okay. So I could most certainly support some sort of resolution on this. However, even the CDC's data from 2022 shows that some of these whereas statements are not accurate. So I could support it if section 1 were gone. I would like to see some of the language toned down just a little bit. But I do wonder, do we have the jurisdiction over all? And I think that's a question for Ms. Linetti. Do we have jurisdiction over all Virginia Beach citizens, or do we have jurisdiction over the schools and students and things impacting students in our schools?
Again, your jurisdiction would be the responsibility of the schools and the students while attending the schools. You would not have the responsibility for the parents and their private capacity maintaining firearms.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with practicing, gun safety, and I have no problems with securing firearms, but I do think some of these numbers are inaccurate. I see some head shaking, but the CDC is 2022. There's some 2017 numbers in here. Some of these are from town hall. I understand that the mayor signed a proclamation, but the city of Virginia Beach is charged with the police department. The school board has not got any authority over the police department. So, I'm happy to support some version of this resolution, but I am not willing to support this as it's written. And, I would hope that my colleagues would be willing to make some minor adjustments so that this could be supportable. Thank you.
Mr. Culpepper?
I'd echo some of that. My initial thought on this whole thing is this is not our business. Similar to what you just said. The city's perfectly reasonable to address this subject. I actually love that, what's it, Moms Demand Action. I love that the Moms Demand Action are here. That's a perfectly appropriate way to address this issue to their friends, to their neighbors, to the public. I don't really think it's a school board issue. Having said that, I mean, it's perfectly sensible to tell people to store their guns properly. But the first bullet, I think that's disingenuous to use that statistic here. While it is in fact true, the vast majority, 90% plus, of those deaths are assault. In other words, purposeful. I haven't any idea, because it's not in CDC's data, at least not that I can parse out of it, what percentage of those are due to improperly stored weapons that fall into the hands of somebody. Well, we're talking about youth here, that fall into the hands of youth who kill themselves or somebody else with it. But yet it implies that addressing this issue would address the number one cause of death of teens, and that's not the case. So I would agree that the first bullet needs to come out. Additionally, I'd actually like to add something here. You've got the line here that says, research shows that one of the best ways to protect children from accessing firearms is making sure all guns are stored, unloaded, locked, and separate from ammunition. I'm sure that's true. However, I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of people who own weapons and keep them in their house have them for the purpose of self-defense. And unloaded.
Can you speak into your microphone? They're having trouble hearing you.
No, sorry. All screwed up. I would argue that the vast majority of people who own firearms and keep them in their house have them for the purpose of defending themselves, their families, and their homes. And an unloaded weapon is no better than a baseball bat for that purpose. So I think you're at risk here. If that's all you're going to say here, I think you're at risk of basically losing all those people who have a weapon in the house for that purpose, because they're going to go, well, I can't do what you ask of me because it defeats the purpose. But there are ways to address that issue. There are lots of quick, I don't know what to call them specifically, but quick action safes. That's a specific brand, I think. Where loaded firearms can be kept safely. So I would suggest a paragraph something along the lines of where children might be, where loaded firearms are required. I can help you write this language better than this, but where loaded firearms are necessary and children might be present, lock boxes, quick action lock boxes or something to that effect may be used. Yeah, those are two big things I would look at.
Okay, Miss Manning, and then Miss Owens.
Okay. You know, one thing I really like that our speaker said, I think it was Miss Lisberg, said that courts are finally holding parents accountable when children do access weapons that have not been properly stored. And I'm thankful for that because ultimately it is the responsibility of the parents to make sure that they secure their weapons properly. I actually really liked the resolved languages at the bottom. All of the resolved parts down here, I could support tomorrow and vote yes. And I think that's what we're here for. We're here for the resolved parts. And I would hate for the whereases up top to prevent me from voting for these resolved parts. I looked into these statistics, and they're absolutely not accurate. The first one, I specifically looked it up. ChildrenSafetyNetwork.org says that this number is actually that it's 14th killer. The CDC has different numbers. So I couldn't support that first whereas. You know, some of the other language in here, you know, and down here under the 4.6 million children living in a home, that was a 2015 survey that only, that was surveyed of less than 4,000 people across the entire nation. So I think that statistic is perhaps inaccurate and definitely old. So I'd like to see some updated language on that. So what I'd like to ask the patron, Ms. Anderson, is if you would be willing to work with me on the language at the top, because I support a lot of the whereases up here. And I think maybe we could get to a point of agreement if we could work together on the whereas language at the top and come up with something that's suitable for all of us. Again, I support the bottom language, which is the important part. So if you'd be willing to do that with me, I'm making that request.
Miss Owens.
Thank you. I guess I would start by saying that I'm glad to hear that many of the colleagues are open to supporting the resolution. You know, the resolved parts certainly are the meat. While I got to provide some input to Ms. Anderson, and I was very proud to do so, I did not, you know, come up with the statistics there. However, I think if Ms. Anderson is open to working with Ms. Manning on some of those, I mean, obviously that's between them. But I think that you can find different statistics on different sites because of the way information is sourced and categorized. The FBI tracks things differently than city law enforcement, and the Center for Missing and Exploited Children have different tracking criteria for things that they would track. I know that this is not missing children, but different organizations have different criteria on how they track things. If, you know, different wording is going to make that clear that we have an issue in our city and across the nation with children unnecessarily dying from firearm injuries, whether that is from violence, intentionally, accidentally, suicide, stolen from a car, the children are just as dead. And I think that when we talk jurisdiction, if we are talking about things that impact the children that we serve, like firearm injuries, like opioids, I would be in support of the district making statements about parents locking or disposing of opioid medications no longer in use. We see that that's a problem with students in our district, and we see the impacts not only for the students directly affected by or harmed by the guns, but for their friends who lost somebody to drugs. And the board is understanding of the need to make a statement and be proactive. And it's not just the students who are injured by the firearm, it's the family members and the other people in their wake who are impacted forever. We had a speaker today who spoke about something that happened years ago, and you can tell that that still impacts her today. That's trauma that people carry. I think that this resolution is a kind of bottom baseline statement to say, yes, we as a board recognize that this is an ongoing issue in our community. I haven't been on the board, it'll be 5.5 years, and there hasn't been 1 year that I've been on this board where we haven't lost one or more students to some kind of gun death. If we can make any small dent in that, then I am 100% for that. And so I hope that whatever it takes for my colleagues to also be on board for that will happen. So thank you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Ms. Anderson.
So I'm willing to make a few minor adjustments, and I will double check the numbers and come back with verifiable numbers, and I'll contact Ms. Manning this week and see if we can come to an agreement on.
So might I also ask that if this is going to be a resolution that's read once a year, that perhaps you find a way to leave off specifics. I don't know if it's going to
Specific
be,
numbers.
but
Right.
that maybe you find a way to,
Right. More
if
generic.
if not. But you know what, you've said you're going to tweak it.
So the major thing that I want to do is I want people to be aware that we are in favor, or that we would support, gun storage, secure gun storage, period. That's all I want.
Okay, Ms. Manning.
Yeah, I think we can get to where, I'm sorry. I think we can get to where we need to be. Ms. Anderson, could I maybe send you a proposal via email and get your feedback on it? And it would mostly just be taking out the statistics in here, and maybe. Okay, all right,
I'm
thank you.
agreeable to some of that, and I'll, I think the meat of it is what's important.
Okay,
You all
thank
run
you.
that by me too, right?
Oh, yes, I'll send it to you too. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Tonight we have 5 resolutions: Bullying Prevention Month, Disability History and Awareness Month, Dyslexia Awareness Month, Filipino American History Month, and Indigenous Peoples Day. I think I remember Ms. Kendrick asking for Bullying Prevention Month, so we'll start with that.
Yes, Bullying Prevention Month, October 2024, whereas school bullying has become an increasingly significant problem in the United States and Virginia, and whereas nearly 30% of youth in the United States are estimated to be involved in bullying each year, either as a bully or as a victim, and whereas students who experience bullying are at increased risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school, and whereas bullying can occur in many forms, including physical, social, and verbal, and can happen in many places on and off school grounds as well as online, and whereas it is important for Virginia Beach families, students, school counselors, teachers, and school administrators to be aware of bullying and to encourage discussion of the problem as a school community, and whereas the school board of the City of Virginia Beach has developed a policy on anti-bullying to encourage positive behaviors and to eliminate bullying behaviors, and whereas Virginia Beach City Public Schools, through sustained and dedicated efforts, has implemented programs for all employees and students that recognizes a deep commitment to all levels to raise awareness of bullying and its prevention. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach recognizes the month of October 2024 as Bullying Prevention Month in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, and be it further resolved that the issue of bullying and its prevention be discussed in Virginia Beach City Public Schools classrooms during this time, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board, adopted by the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach this 24th day of September 2024.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Manning.
Whereas Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 was founded on 4 principles: inclusion, full participation, economic self-sufficiency, and equality of opportunity for people with disabilities. And whereas the Virginia General Assembly has designated the month of October as Disability History and Awareness Month to increase public awareness and respect for persons with disabilities, to inform the public concerning their many contributions to society, and to emphasize the abilities and rights of persons with disabilities rather than their exceptionalities. And whereas public schools, institutions of higher education, the business community, civic organizations, and other interested entities are encouraged to promote Disability History and Awareness Month in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And whereas the Virginia Department of Education's 23-24 Virginia State Quality Profile reported the Virginia Public School Division served 181,085 students with disabilities under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and the Virginia Beach City Public Schools 23-24 Quality Profile reported the division served 8,737 students with disabilities under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and whereas Virginia Beach City Public Schools believes in having the highest expectations for students with disabilities and believes that students with disabilities make significant academic and social progress when educated as appropriate in general education environments, and whereas it is necessary to increase public awareness, knowledge, and understanding of disabilities, the rights of persons with disabilities, and to foster a culture of mutual respect and equal opportunities for all in our schools, businesses, and communities. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach officially recognizes the month of October as Disability History and Awareness Month. And be it further resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach encourages all citizens to support and participate in the various school activities during Disability History and Awareness Month, and further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board.
Okay, Dyslexia Awareness Month, Mr. Callen.
Whereas dyslexia is a language-based learning disability that causes difficulty with reading, writing, spelling, and word pronunciation, and whereas the onset and severity of dyslexia varies for each individual, and whereas it takes individuals with dyslexia longer to process phonemic information, thus affecting academic growth, achievement, and self-esteem, and whereas it is important to provide effective teaching approaches and educational intervention strategies for individuals with dyslexia, and whereas Dyslexia Awareness Month is an opportunity to acknowledge educators utilizing effective teaching strategies and to celebrate the many achievements of adolescents, students, and adults with dyslexia. And whereas the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach is committed to a continued focus on educating students, parents, and school staff about effective teaching strategies to address the needs of students with learning disabilities. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach designates the month of October to be Dyslexia Awareness Month, and be it further resolved that strategies and interventions to address the needs of students with learning disabilities be ongoing in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, and that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board.
Thank you. Filipino American History Month, Ms. Franklin.
Whereas one of our nation's greatest strengths is its vast diversity, which enables Americans to see the world from many viewpoints. And whereas Filipino Americans are the second largest Asian American group in the nation, and the city of Virginia Beach has the highest percentage of Filipino Americans in Virginia. And whereas through the study of Filipino Americans' contributions, all students may find role models whose participation, commitment, and achievement embodies the American spirit and ideals. And whereas the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach recognizes the importance of multicultural diversity education within the school division. And whereas in 2009, the U.S. Congress recognized October as Filipino American History Month in the United States. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach officially recognizes the month of October 2024 as Filipino American History Month, whose theme is 1898, recognizing 125 years of Philippine American history. And be it further resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach encourages all citizens to support and participate in various school activities during Filipino American History Month. And be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board, adopted by the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach this 24th day of September 2024.
Thank you. And our last resolution this evening is Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Whereas the school board recognizes that Native Americans have lived and thrived in North America from time immemorial, and whereas the school board recognizes that Indigenous people contribute to the academic, economic, and cultural success and well-being of the city of Virginia Beach and Commonwealth each and every day, and whereas the school board values the many contributions made to our community by Indigenous people and the deep cultural contributions that have substantially shaped the character of the city of Virginia Beach, and whereas Indigenous people in America have often suffered persecution and removal from their homelands at the hands of governing bodies and through the colonization and settlement of America. And whereas the school board supports the resilience of Indigenous people to thrive and prosper to the present day. And whereas the school board promotes the closing of the equity gap for Indigenous people through policies and practices that promote the culture, history, and their many contributions in society. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach officially recognizes the second Monday in October 2024 as Indigenous Peoples' Day. And be it further resolved that all schools and our community are encouraged to support and celebrate the resilience of our tribal communities and Indigenous peoples, on Indigenous Peoples' Day. And be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board.
Okay, thank you. I call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Motion made by Ms. Riggs, seconded by Ms. Franklin. The voting board is open.
Madam Chair, before we go with the vote, I want to confirm that Ms. Weems is online. Ms. Weems, can you state the reason why you're attending via Zoom and your location? Ms. Weems, can you unmute? Okay, seems like we're still having technical difficulties. One more time, Ms. Weems, can you speak?
She can, the Freedom of Information Act will allow her to file a statement with you. I believe it's a medical reason, and for a medical reason, she's not required to indicate the location, but she can file a statement with you as to why.
Okay.
she's unable to.
No worries. All right, so the motion was made by Ms. Riggs, seconded by Ms. Franklin. The voting board is open.
Ms. Owens, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Weems, how do you vote? Since we cannot hear Ms. Weems, I'm going to mark her down as abstaining. So, Madam Chair, we have 10 ayes, 1 abstention, so the motion did pass for the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. And on action this evening, we'll begin with the personnel report and administrative appointments. Call for a motion to approve the September 24th, 2024 personnel report and administrative appointments. Motion made by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Riggs. Dr. Robertson, do you have anything to? Yeah.
We need to do the vote first.
Okay. I call for, okay, the voting board is open.
Ms. Owens, how do you vote for the personnel report?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Okay. And one more time, Ms. Weems, how do you vote for the personnel report? I'll put her down as an abstention. So, Madam Chair, we have 10 ayes. The motion did pass for the personnel report.
All right, thank you. Now, I always do that.
Yes.
Dr. Robertson?
Yes, so, thank you, Madam Chair. We're pleased that tonight you approved our recommendation for Rachel Amato, currently an Assistant Director of Food Services in the Office of Food Services, to be the new Director of Food Services in the Office of Food Services.
Yay.
Next, we're pleased that you've approved our recommendation for Pamela Johnson Ballard, currently an Administrative Assistant at Holland and Rosemont Elementary School, to be the next Coordinator in Special Education in the Office of Programs for Exceptional Children. And then finally, we're pleased that you have accepted our recommendation for Mary Talendi, currently an Instructional Specialist in the Office of Programs for Exceptional Children, to be the next Coordinator of Special Education, the Office of Programs for Exceptional Children.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that's all our appointments.
All right. Item B is budget calendar, school operating budget fiscal year 25-26 and fiscal year 25-26 through 2030-31 for capital improvement program. All right, I call for a motion to approve the budget calendar and the capital improvement program calendar. Motion made by Mr. Culpepper, seconded by Ms. Anderson. All right, any discussion?
The
Oh, it
motion
hasn't
was
come up.
made by Ms. Anderson, the second was by Ms. Kendrick, and Mr. Culpepper's in the queue to speak.
Okay, thank you.
No comments on the calendar, other than I just want to repeat what I've said before, which is anytime there are 4 meetings in a month, it's impossible for me to schedule around them. So I'll work with you, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, to determine which meetings are most important for me to be physically present for, and I'll try to Zoom for the others in February,
For what?
the February meetings.
For,
Yeah.
oh, in the, oh,
'Cause there-
oh, I'm
there-
sorry, I'm sorry.
There are
Okay.
4 meetings in that month. There's no way I can schedule to be physically present for all 4 of those.
Okay.
So I'll work with you to determine which ones are most important for me to be present for. And the
Okay,
others I'll
we'll
try to
work
Zoom in
with,
for.
we'll work with staff on that to determine which ones, yeah. That's good, thank you for that. All right, any further discussion? Voting board is open.
Ms. Owens, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, and okay. Has Ms. Brown stepped out? Okay. And Ms. Weems cannot hear, so we will do abstain. Okay, so Madam Chair, we have 9 ayes and 2 abstentions, so the motion did pass for the budget calendar.
Okay, thank you. Item C is the schedule of school board meetings through June 30th of 2025. I call for a motion to approve that list. Motion made by Ms. Riggs, seconded by Ms. Franklin. Any discussion? All right, the voting board is open.
Ms. Owens, how do you vote for the schedule of school board meetings through June 30th, 2025?
I vote aye.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, we have 10 ayes. The motion did pass for the schedule of school board meetings.
Okay, thank you. And last on action is the LGBTQIA month resolution that was moved from from consent to action. So I'm going to read this and then I'll open the floor for discussion. Whereas the school board requires that all students and staff have a safe and supportive learning and work environment free from discrimination and harassment. And whereas the school board recognizes that LGBTQIA students, staff, and their families are important members of the Virginia Beach City Public Schools community and value their inclusion and contribution. And whereas the school board acknowledges that LGBTQIA students and staff are subject to many challenges that contribute to higher rates of isolation, depression, bullying, discrimination and harassment, and suicidal ideations or attempts. And whereas the school board has adopted policies and the school division has implemented regulations and practices to prohibit bullying, discrimination and harassment based on sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. And whereas the school board supports the needs and rights of LGBTQIA students, staff, and their families to ensure that their learning and work experiences in Virginia Beach City Public Schools are free from bullying, harassment, and discrimination. Now therefore be it resolved that the school board of the City of Virginia Beach officially recognizes the month of October 2024 as LGBTQIA month, and be it further resolved that the school board of the City of Virginia Beach will comply with all state and federal laws and regulations regarding anti-bullying, non-discrimination, and non-harassment of LGBTQIA persons. And be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board, adopted by the school board of the City of Virginia Beach this 24th day of September 2024. So I'll entertain a motion to adopt this resolution first. So motion made by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Franklin. And now we'll open for discussion. Mr. Culpepper.
I'll be brief. Everything in the whereas section of this resolution is love thy neighbor. And I am wholeheartedly in agreement with it. There's nothing there I would disagree with. However, the first resolved is to officially recognize the month of October as LGBTQIA month. I joked when I ran for office, make school board boring again. LGBTQ issues are intensely controversial and not appropriate for this environment for lots of reasons, and therefore I can't support it.
Anybody else? The voting board is open.
Ms. Owens, how do you vote for the resolution?
I vote aye for all the resolutions.
Thank you.
Is Ms. Weems on?
Ms. Weems, how do you vote for the resolution? She cannot hear.
Yes.
And Ms. Kendrick has left.
So we'll wait. I didn't realize she was gone. Did she? Oh, she chose to walk out? Is that what you're saying? She didn't go in the restroom? Okay. Yes, you can.
Okay, so Madam Chair, we have 5 ayes and 4 nays, so the resolution did pass.
Okay, thank you. Committee organization and board reports. Does anybody have anything? So I do. And I'm really thrilled to share this one. This is a special one. And I'd like to give a huge shout out. I think one of Dr. Robertson's just a crowning moment, honestly. Dr. Robertson, I don't think I've ever been more proud of a superintendent that I am with what you have done this past year with your superintendent's roundtable. I've had the honor and privilege of attending those meetings monthly, and I've mentioned this before, but it is a group of people that said to Dr. Robertson, I'm not coming to this meeting if we're just going to talk. This is a group that said, we want to see action every month, and he has done that. And so yesterday's meeting was at the DeFord Manor on the campus of Virginia Wesleyan, and there were members of the community, that have been there every month. But in addition, there were a few additions yesterday. One being Amazon, and I believe that representative from Amazon was so impressed with the things that this division is doing. And everybody that comes to work for VBCPS every single day should be really proud, because that entire room was, just their jaws dropped with everything. One of the things that we did talk about, this group said that they wanted to know what our needs are. And so, if you don't mind, Dr. Robertson, I'll pass that on to you just to elaborate on that piece, if you would.
Yeah, so as we work with the group to determine how can we eliminate obstacles for expanding opportunities in CTE programming, I shared the conversation I had with Congresswoman Jen Kiggins around if she can help at the federal level with relieving some of our OSHA regulations. Can she leverage some of her contacts in the Department of Navy to open up opportunities for our students to and get involved with shipbuilding and all the maritime things? And so we were asked by a gentleman from Town Bank and of one of the most wealthy individuals in the city of Virginia Beach, what do you need to clear these obstacles? And I said, well, funding always talks, and so we don't have a budget for some of the things that we are dreaming about, we are trying to innovate about. And so they said, well, why don't you just give us a list of things. And I said, well, we've got a list of unfunded mandates that we have to cover, and certainly if we didn't have to cover those, that might help. So they want to engage in more of a conversation about how can they help eliminate some obstacles so that we can create more opportunities. And you guys are going to see some courses that Sarah Lockett has created as a result of these partnerships with this group, including the 40 welding kids that were paid for by the Workforce Council to go to the Portsmouth Marine Terminal yesterday and get firsthand experience with welding, as well as the program we have with Virginia Wesleyan University. So they definitely, it's the right people in the room. Worth Remick is in that group as a city councilman. So, and it's a good group. We're doing good things.
Yeah, you should be proud. It's a really good group.
And we've also invited Chesapeake City Public Schools.
We have, and I think that was a great addition to add our neighbor. Keep your enemies close, right? Yeah. No, they're not enemies. You know what I mean. We're always comparing ourselves to Chesapeake, so we're going to join forces. And as a matter of fact, we've asked that next month the meeting be in Chesapeake. Yeah.
Well, what Dr. Robertson said, one of the reasons why he invited Chesapeake to the table is because they have programs that we don't. And we have programs they don't, right, in the CTE, and that we could be sharing that with each other, and that would be very, very helpful. So I have to reiterate what Ms. Melnick said. When Don came up with this idea last year, I was like, oh my gosh, this is probably one of the best. Because when they reached out to us and said, they reached out to me and said, how can we help you? I'm like, oh, wow. This has been a wonderful opportunity. And it really has. Sarah told me yesterday, because I was there too, she said, this has really opened a lot of doors for some of the things that I've been able to do this year with money and opportunities. And so this has been one of the biggest things that's helped her move the program along. So.
Yeah, we'll probably get additional money for the welding lab at Renaissance out of this as well.
Yeah. It's an action group, that's for sure. Miss Anderson.
I just wanted to give an update about the sister cities and what we've been up to. The sister cities, Virginia Beach, we finally finalized the details for the application for the 2025 Youth Ambassador competition. I will have further details of that at the next October meeting, but I can tell you that please be looking for that for students who are listening. Please be looking and ask your counselors about it within the next couple of weeks. That those applications will be sent to the counselors, It's worth it because first place is a $4,000 scholarship, and second place is a $2,000 scholarship, and third place is a $1,000 scholarship. So, and that is something that not to sneeze at. So, hopefully, we'll have some students who are interested in competing for this. I will say that the Neptune Festival Parade, which is this Saturday, the Youth Ambassador for 2024 will be in the parade, and hopefully you'll be down there. They'll be passing out a few things for the ambassador, and I hope to have more details about this at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Well, seeing nothing else then, it is 9:17 and we are adjourned.